All right, welcome to the Fresh Perspective, episode 4. I'm here with good friend and my personal coach, master trainer, Paul Neville. Welcome to the Fresh Perspective, Paul.
Thanks, John. It's good to be here, man. I've been looking forward to this.
Me too. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, why don't you give a little bit of a background about yourself, where you're from, upbringing, training, how you got into training, that kind of thing. We'll get into a little bit later, but a little general background about yourself.
All right. Well, I am Paul Neville. I got into training when I was a kid for sports reasons. I was, obviously I was small, so I had to take training a little more serious than others because I would have got cut from the teams if I didn't have something to bring to the table. So I really took weight training very, very serious for that reason. And then, sports led into, going to school for it because it really intrigued me a lot. Wanted to learn more, wanted to get better. Bodybuilding always was something that was kind of magical to me as a kid. When I saw somebody that was big, saw somebody that it just was something about, it was more impressive than a nice car by far. If I saw someone with a Ferrari or 20-inch arm, 20-inch arm would take my attention at that point in time. Now maybe a little bit different story, but at that point in time, I just felt like they put their pants on different than a normal person.
And you're a New York native, Long Island, right?
Yeah, I was born, I grew up very much in Babylon. It was, like I said, just really into sports, training, and that just led on to so many other things in life. Fitness, I became a personal trainer, obviously a coach, because it wasn't something, I never took my job as a trainer, John, as someone that counted 10, 50 times a day. I took my job as a trainer because I felt like I could change somebody's life like it changed mine. And with that perspective, honestly, it got me a couple of pretty good accolades. I won the world's best trainer in 1999, which is a pretty cool award to win. Not many people that could say that. Was a competitive bodybuilder. When I retired from bodybuilding, I had a pretty good run as a bodybuilder as well. But when I got done, luckily I still wanted bodybuilding to be a part of my life. But I had other business ventures. That bodybuilding, if you're going to do it right, is very consuming, very narcissistic, and I just had too many things I had to focus on. So I walked away from it. But I asked Steve Weinberger, the chairman of the NPC Northeast, can I get involved? Can I have my own show? Because I still felt that would keep me involved, even though I wasn't competing. And luckily, he gave me that opportunity for 15 years. As you know, you competed in my show. I was the promoter of the Long Island Championships.
How old were you when you started actually training people?
It's for this is.
I actually don't know this. I'm very curious.
Well, I'll dive deep into how I became a trainer. I was training at 12. I was getting trained by Russian strength coaches when I was a kid because of hockey. I was fast. I was small, and they saw something that they didn't see in other people, and I got trained at a pretty high level and understood what it meant to have professionals around you training, not your friend. Because when you go to the gym, the big guy in the gym at that point in time was the guy you watched. Whatever he did, you did, right or wrong.
And honestly, that's the biggest problem I see now is I can't even go to the gyms anymore because I look around and I see all the bad. And sometimes I am the guy in the gym people are looking at. Not if I'm at Bev's, but if I'm at a regular crunch,
absolutely.
I am that guy sometimes, and I feel okay with people watching me. But I'm looking around
and
I see how terrible the form is and everybody. I can't go to the gym because I feel like I'll take half the time trying to correct people.
Well, how do you think I feel when I walk into a gym? It's because sometimes it doesn't. The amount of knowledge, and I've learned.
And you want to help people.
Yeah, but I learned from the guy at first. The only guy to learn from was that big guy in the gym. My career evolved to where I learned from the guys that that worked out in my gym. I paid them to do seminars. They taught with me. I taught at Dowling College for 10 years with Dave Palumbo. I certified thousands of trainers for a personal training program called SMART, Scientific Management of Anatomical Responsive Training at Dowling with Dave Palumbo. And
next level shit.
Yeah, so the next, when you see someone in the gym doing something wrong and you walk over and say, hey, why don't you just pull your chest up a little bit more and you're not using it. Sometimes you get a really bad reaction.
The ego gets checked sometimes.
Yeah,
people are like, really
what I learned,
not feeling it. That's why I like singling out sometimes, like the teenage kids. A teenage kid who's not walking around with his chest up, I feel like that kid he's willing to listen. Yep. And if he sees me, especially if I'm wearing a tight top, he sees I'm in good shape. He's open to kind of like having his mind changed, and
you can feel that energy. Like he's receptive, and it's worth giving you knowledge to.
Yeah, I look at the kid who's working out, and he's looking around the room almost like for validation. That's the kid that kid will listen.
Yeah, because that kid at one time was you.
Oh, 100%. How I became up in the gym and how I trained before I met you was I was known for, I would go up to the biggest guy. I was very strong for my size, like you. I had to work out because I'm short. You know, I peaked at 5'8", and I played basketball, so I was always the smallest kid. I was very athletic, but I needed to compensate in whatever way I could for sports. So if I can't grow up, I'm going to grow wide and deep. So I would try to be as strong as fast as I could. And I would go to the gym, and I would be able to catch the eye of these people in the gym because for my size, they wouldn't expect the way they're strong on the bar. So I got their respect. And then I would ask them, I would go to the gym at the same time every day. And you know, everyone has a routine, right? Yeah. You know, the same guys at the same time slots every day. And the biggest, most impressive guy in the gym, I go up to him at the beginning and say, hey, would you mind if I take along with you? I promise I won't slow you down. I want to learn. I want to pick. And I've never gotten turned down.
That's funny because that's ballsy. I didn't have that type of confidence as a kid.
I never got turned down one time.
What I would do, I would watch that guy. Why he had no idea how intensely I was watching his every move.
Well, I feel like I would do that. I started doing that, and then I feel like people would get creeped out as like every machine they left, I got on next. You know what I mean? I'm basically shadowing their workout. Yeah. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to ask them if I could train with them. And you'd be surprised. And anyone listening right now, if you see somebody at your gym and they're training hard, like try it. What's supposed to happen? They say no. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not a chick. What are you worried about? It's something that I learned every time you train with somebody new who's better than you, you at least leave there picking up one thing. I always picked up at least one angle difference, one new handle, one new movement, one new way to superset, whatever it is, it always gave me something. And then after, you know, from training from like 12 years old, when I started actually being in the gym, the time I was in my 20s, 10 years of doing that with God knows 20, 30, 40, 50 different guys that I had shadowed, you know, you pick up your own arsenal, a little bit from each guy. It makes you dangerous.
It really does. It really does. I mean, and that's how you learned back then. I mean, now there's so many channels.
Well, now, you can go on YouTube and you can
listen. But it's still different. It was still different when you watched it. When you really, there's a difference in watching online and watching in person and feeling the energy, feeling that. It was. You
can't duplicate the in-person experience. There's no question about it. But I didn't mean to get you off track. So you grew up obviously very competitive in sports. You had Russian strength trainers getting you the real technical lifts from the beginning.
Ballistic speed training. And on the ice, they tie me to a band and make me dig my skates in. And when I let go, it actually flew. The first 15 feet, I don't think my skates touched the ground because I was in the air because I was 100 pounds. But I flew across and then my feet would catch up. But I was the fastest guy they've ever clocked from blue line to blue line. So we'd work on speed, you know, speed on the ice. And I just took to training like it's just you couldn't possibly take to it something more. It was like I needed it more than my next breath of air. So the weight training, I tried to learn more. And it's funny because when you read Muscle and Fitness, the only thing I was learning, and how could I argue with, you know, Flex, Ironman, Muscle and Fitness, you're reading the workouts of an Olympia, but you don't really stand. That's not what you are. But if that's what they're doing, that's what's going to make me better. So you start emulating your idols and emulating Mr. Olympia, but it's really not what's right. But you know, there wasn't enough information to take. What should I be doing now at this point? How do you break into for my level, my age, my hormones, my experience,
and your genetics,
and my genetics? I'm doing Lee Haney's totally awesome workout. You know,
I think a lot of people underestimate how much genetics has to do with everything in life. But in bodybuilding, I mean, it's everything. Everybody's body is different. How it responds to diet, how it responds to training, drugs, whatever it is.
You know what?
You know what works for me is not going to work for you, and vice versa.
You're dead on. And there's three different body types. Way to do it. No, there isn't. No. The human body, what diet works might work best for the best in the world. Take Phil Heath, Ronnie Coleman, Dorian, whoever, Lee Haney. And I know them all well. I've spent enough time with each one of them to know that their approaches couldn't be any different, yet they were the best in the world at their era. Lee Haney trained twice a week, stimulate, don't annihilate. Dorian Yates annihilated to the part of muscle. He tore his muscles apart.
But even him, it was only 4 days a week, right, Dorian?
At times, it was 3.
That's correct. Yeah,
but Dorian was an enigma. You got someone like Dorian.
But all those guys are enigmas. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You can't copy. You could eat everything that Dorian Yates eats. You could train the way he trains down to the rep. You can do every drug he did exactly the same, but you're not going to be Dorian Yates.
You know, I tried because when I learned, he came into my gym and he taught his style. We learned. We had a lot of conversations, and for 6 months, I did that. One set to failure, really high intensity, heavy duty training. You know, not Mike Menser. Dorian was a little bit involved with Mike Menser and Arthur Jones's theory, but I wasn't a mesomorph. I'm an ectomorph. I was naturally thin. No matter what I ate, I couldn't gain weight. Dorian's truly a mesomorph. If he looks at weights long enough, he starts growing. You know, a true mesomorph, an athlete has it. So
yeah,
I wrote down every single workout, and the idea was if you get stronger every single workout, a stronger muscle is a bigger muscle. And I got so strong after 6 months, but I wasn't getting the hypertrophy that I was training for, not the strength. And the intense.
Let's break that down. People who don't understand what you're talking about first. There's, in the most basic form, there's 3 types of human body tests as far as how you gain and lose muscle, how you gain and lose fat. It's an ectomorph, an endomorph, and a mesomorph.
Correct.
And that's the,
everything.
Yeah, it's a very baseline understanding of human genetics, but that is the easiest way to break it down. People who get fat very easily, if you stop training for 6 months, would you get fat? Would you get skinny? Or that's endomorph and ectomorph. And if you gain muscle, you gain fat, you gain muscle and lose fat easily, that very rare mesomorph is kind of the extreme athlete. And I think that every professional bodybuilder that's at the highest level is probably that.
Yeah. Or if anything, mesoendo, where they can get really big. But really, that basis is how you start a component for your training.
Each one should be training eating different.
Absolutely. Every single person, those 3 things should be doing things, extremely different. And a person that's an endomorph that can get heavy fast, obviously they have an insulin, they have high, they release insulin very easily. So that's why they gain weight. Insulin, if you don't know it, if you eat a lot of carbohydrates break down into the body, raising blood sugar. Insulin pulls blood sugar down. However, depending on your body type, if you're an ectomorph, it's only going one place. It's a transport hormone. That was the whole theory to Atkins. Atkins had a fat and protein diet. If you could eat fat, bacon, this, that, mayonnaise, and you can't get fat, you'll lose weight, because without insulin, the fat can't get into the storage cell, can't get into the fat cell. So that worked out pretty well. He died, actually, but, of a heart attack, I think. But that needs to be said. But there was a lot. Now, a keto diet is different. A keto diet was fat and protein, but only quality fats.
I like keto for short term. I don't think that it's a sustainable way to live. I think that they've actually shown studies that it's actually long term not healthy for you. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I'm not a doctor. However, from my personal experience, if you need to lose a lot of weight in a short period of time, I've done this stupid thing before where I felt like I had a vacation coming in a couple weeks and I just didn't think I was beach ready. Obviously I'm psychotic and I have muscle dysmorphia like we all do. But, I was looking in the mirror and I'm like, I want to be shredded on the beach. Fastest way to lose fat without losing muscle, in my opinion, is go 2, 3, 4 weeks of keto. And that fat, at least for me, my fat melts off. I love it. You feel good. It's that first week when you get rid of that carbohydrate dependency, you feel good too.
You do. When I tried doing the keto diet, I'm such an ectomorph and carb burner. Right? I never really got into ketosis without having such bad migraines. It really didn't agree with me physiologically. It didn't agree with me. And it was interesting because Scott Conley, he's a doctor of and engineered metrics, the original metrics, which wasn't just a supplement. The original metrics from Dr. Conley, he actually lectured with Dave and I on a SMART program at Dorian College. It was developed in a trauma unit that he fed it to burn victims. And the metamycin, which is the time-release protein found in metrics, 37 grams of protein, 9 grams, I believe, of glutamine, whatever it had, was a perfect ratio that they were feeding burn victims 10,000 calories a day, and the skin wasn't replicating, it wasn't healing, it wasn't mending. And he showed us a slideshow of actually the cells mending and coming together using metrics. That's why it's called metrics, engineered nutrition. He believed that metrics was healthier than food. And honestly, when I took metrics with the Twin Lab Ultra Fuel at the time, it was more potent than steroids. When you took it, you felt your body when you're done replenished, healing, and you just felt unbelievable.
So it was formulated specifically for regrowth in humans? That's what basically is? Wow.
Burn victims in a trauma unit. That's why it was for. So when people came out, whether it was Pro Lab or some of the other companies who had 50 grams of protein, he didn't give a shit because it doesn't matter. The amount of time-released proteins is exactly, the only thing that matters when it comes into your body is how it gets absorbed, whether it's vitamins or anything. And his protein, and anyone that took original vanilla metrics can understand that this was something different. Hot stuff at the time actually put like D-Boy, I think, in it. But metrics was really, it was incredible. It was an incredible supplement. And Dr. Conley, along with Dave Palumbo, were very big advocates of fat and protein diets because there's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. There's no such thing. There's essential fatty acids. Mm-hmm. There's 8 essential amino acids. The branch chain is the most
17 branch chains, something like that. Right?
There's 21 amino acids. 8 of them are essential, and 3 of them are the really ones that create hypertrophy that aren't really found in a lot of the vegan food. That's why there's that big controversy. Leucine, valine, and isoleucine, I believe, are the big 3. Leucine, especially.
This is where you get out of my pay grade, and this is what they call Paulie the Sensei, the Master Yoda. I mean, it's an encyclopedia on wheels. It's really crazy. Before I get down that hole, I'm sorry I took you off your path again. you're done with school at this point and sports. How did you transition to training happen?
Reality was, I was working for an insurance company of all things because my family was very professional. All my family were the teachers, very educated, highly professional. And I guess I might as well shoot this out. But I was going through a bad breakup at the time, and the only place I didn't feel pain or something like was the gym.
The gym.
So
the gym.
Actually, listen, this is the reality of it. Let me go how bad it went. The girl that I was dating when I started dating a guy that was in my inner circle. So I couldn't really lean on my friends because the last thing I wanted to see is my girlfriend that I probably, would have been pretty serious with another guy. So I had to form a completely different circle. And at that point, the gym was just very comfortable. So I remember I couldn't really go to work with a good frame of mind. So when
How old are you at this point?
22.
Okay. I
was 22. And I remember I was like, you know what?
Did you go to college?
Yeah. I went to college and I went to school for physical education, and which was really interesting. And I switched and got a marketing degree because I just felt at the time it was just sort of more diverse. I could do more when I got out of school with all the schooling I already took on physical education, which took me a longer time to graduate. But it was at that time when I was just like, man, this is the only thing that felt right. Just for personal reasons, I just really asked for someone to really listen. I'm at the end of my rope with this whole situation. You got something to show me? And the first thing that came to mind was the gym. Look for a gym job. Went home, looked in the news day for a job, and there was a sales job open. And I went to the sales job in Lawrence, MetroFit. It was called MetroFit in Lawrence here, 5 towns. I'm from Babylon. And it was a sales job. So I went into the interview, and this guy named Sean Gilsner was crazy. But he sits me down, he goes over the job position with me, and he's like, and I started explaining my past and history of what it meant to train. And where at that point, I mean, there's very few people that could probably match that type of resume or what fitness was to me. And he's like, I think you're very good, but I don't think you're what we're looking for the job. I'll be right back. Hold that thought. And the guy walked out of the room. Meanwhile, I'm brewing. I'm here because this is where my life led me to, right? And this guy's telling me I can't have a gym job. So the guy comes back in, he sits down. I was like, let me tell you something. Just before you even start, you'll never get someone like me sitting here again in front of you. And the guy just looked at me and goes, you're hired. I just wanted to see if you'd fight for the position. Wow, son of a bitch. You got me. So I was like, all right. Okay. And he's like, congratulations. That's exactly what I wanted to hear from you. I just wanted to see if you had any fight, if you put up a fight, because we're going to be doing sales. So,
wow.
That being said, I started, the next day, whatever, and I'm in this gym, and the head trainer was there, this guy, Vinny, whatever. And now, meanwhile, I'm a kid. I'm 22. This guy's like 40, 41, if my memory's right. He calls in sick, whatever, and it was a very, it was just, his clientele was a little bit older, and they liked their ways. They came in, he wasn't there. Where's Benny? But they were complaining. The first one complained a lot the same. I'm like, oh man, jeez, all right. And Teresa was my manager. Next client comes in, I'm like, hey, Teresa, I can train these people to the level that these guys. She goes, you know how to train. I'm like, Teresa, you want to deal with this all day? How about you let me train these people? I promise you, I won't lay you down. I can take care of this workout. And I just felt really comfortable because I really, at that point, training was my life. I mean,
you could do it with your eyes closed.
Yeah. So the next day I trained all his clients. He had a lot, all of them for the rest of the day. And none of his clients wanted to train with him again. The guy was training for 10 years. So not one of this guy's clients. So then I'm like, I remember she called my boss, who was John Greeley at the time. You probably know that name in the fitness industry, but John Greeley was my boss. And they're like, we got a problem. Like, nobody wants to train with Vinny anymore. Like, this guy Paul just took over. Like, what are you talking about? So John came to meet me, actually. And that's how my training career started. I started out for one day in sales, and I took over this guy's
Day two.
Took over this guy's 10-year career in one day.
Took his whole book.
And then that's how I was like, I got to be pretty good at this. And I never forget, I went home, and my dad was like, so what are you going to do? Work in a gym the rest of your life? Like, he frowned on it. And I'm like, yeah. And if you know I don't know anything about my father, he's very hard guy to talk back to. You don't.
Yeah.
So
old school
for him. Yeah. So for me to it wasn't even a no brainer. So yeah. And if there's a way to make money, I'll make money. And everything worked out from there. So yeah, that's how I got to training.
Jesus Christ. And how many years have you been training now?
Oh God.
Training people.
Shit. I'm 52. I've been training since
30 years.
30 years now.
Now you want to think about the 10,000 hour rule. You got to be way past that.
John, I train for the most part 70 to 80 clients a week. So I broke that rule. The last time I calculated, I was at like 55,000 hours.
Jesus Christ.
Doing what I do at a pretty, and like I said, at a high level, like I go to work to change lives.
And you do. And now I'll give an anecdotal story that I can attest to, because that's the one kind of stories I have. But from my own point of view, I experienced exactly that. I trained, in my fucking house from a kid, 8, 9 years old, starting doing push-ups, sit-ups, the whole nine. Went to the gym at 12, thought I knew what I was doing, thought I was who the fuck I was. I was in good shape always. Always took it seriously. And then at 25 years old, 26 years old, I was dating a new girl, and me and her were traveling a lot. I was drinking a lot. I had hurt something. I feel it was my back or my shoulder. Something had gotten hurt, and then I just milked that. I didn't train for like 6 months. And if you see yourself every day, when you gain, it's hard to tell. When you lose, it's hard to tell. I thought that I was still in decent shape. I was coasting by. I knew I wasn't where I wanted to be. But one day, I'll never forget. And if I find this picture, it's so embarrassing. It's really like mortifying. It's the one time in my entire existence on the earth that I've actually been like out of shape. I get out of shape in my head where I'm like, I don't like the way I look, but I'm talking about out of shape where no one would even think I worked out. And it only became apparent to me when I was in Miami, of course, drinking on the beach, and this girl snaps a picture of me. And when we get back, you know, we had to print them out. This was on a digital camera back then, so we had to print them out. And I look at the picture. I'm holding, mind you, a bucket of Coronas that said "Bucket O Booze" on it, and my shirt's off, and it looked like cottage cheese on my stomach. And I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" And I was mortified. And then later that same day, I went to my friend's house and we were bullshitting. I was leaning on the counter and he goes to me, "What happened to you?" And I was like, I'm confused. Like, I was something on my face. Like, what's he talking about? And he goes, "No, I've never seen you not in shape before." And he didn't mean it like to be a dick. Matt Burak, this is you. So I don't know if I've ever even told you this story, but you're the reason that my whole life went down this path. And it's because of you.
Wow.
So thank you. You were half being a dick, but I needed it and I appreciate it. So I was like, wow, like get your shit together now. So I went online, and anyone who knows me knows I'm an extremist. So I'm like, all right, I need a trainer with my ass in shape. I can't just go back to the gym. And I don't even want a trainer. I want, what's the higher than a trainer? I think bodybuilding coach. So I reach out online and start Googling, and I sent emails to like 10 trainers who I wanted to interview everybody. I wanted to like really get a grasp of everyone, feel them out, see what they're like.
I didn't know this.
And I sent that to everybody. A couple of responses through email. A couple people had plans to meet me, yada, yada. Talked to a few people by phone. Everybody was just like, it seemed like the same old shit. I'd never used a trainer before, mind you. I never used a personal trainer before. And then I come across Paul, and Paul goes, "Yeah, meet me at, Bev Francis, whatever day, Thursday, 4 o'clock, and whatever it was. Meet me at there, and we'll talk." So I go to Bev Francis, which for those of you who don't know is basically the most famous bodybuilding gym there is. I mean, you have the West Coast Mecca is gold, and then it's
closed
beach
right now. Matter of fact.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
that's horrible.
I'll get back to that. I have a story about that actually too. But Bev Francis and Syosset, the same guy, Weinberger's gym, is
Bev Francis.
In Bev Francis' gym is the holy grail. I didn't know what I was walking into. Yeah. I walk in there and there are fucking monsters everywhere. I'm like, where the fuck am I? I mean, even in my best shape, I would have been the smallest guy in there. It's just, you're talking about at any given moment, there's 4, 5, 6 pros walking around at the same time. Like, and I'm talking about, 250 to 280 houses. So I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then Paul brings me to the side. He introduces himself. First thing he does is he brings me into a posing room. For those who don't know what a posing room is, in bodybuilding, it's a room with basically mirrors everywhere, mirrors on the ceiling, angles so you can see behind you, and the down lighting from the top to get the real idea of how you look. And he goes, "All right, let's see what you look like." So I was like, I'm caught off guard. I'm embarrassed. I'm already explaining myself because I'm like, listen, I don't normally, before I get my shirt off, I'm like, I don't normally look like this. I swear.
Which I hear all the time. Right?
I know. I'm an athlete. I promise you. It's just like, this is like the worst I've ever been. It's just, I'm in terrible shape right now. Take my shirt off. He's like, "All right, go to your boxers too. I got to see what your legs look like too."
Yeah, peeled off. Take it off. Legs too.
I'm like, fuck, well, this is uncomfortable. I just met this fucking guy. So now I'm sitting there in my boxers and he's like, "All right, do this." He starts showing me the poses. And I had never posed before either. So I had no idea what I was doing there either. He goes, "Okay." I just see his brain, like that meme with Zach Galifianakis when like all the formulas are going off and you see everything in the air. That's what his eyes look like when he's scanning you. All you just see is like he's like making tabulations in his head, like checking out your muscle insertions and your body fat and your bone structure. And he's like looking at you. And he goes, "Okay." And then he proceeded to ask me about how I'm working out, how I've been training, how I've been eating, what I should be doing, what I shouldn't be doing. And we talked for an hour. And he did not charge me. He didn't ask me for money, nothing. He told me what he does. He told me what I should do. He gave me a rundown, and I learned more in that 1 hour than I'd ever learned from any other human being when it comes to training in my entire life. And I was immediately blown away. I'm like, I need to be with this fucking guy. So on the spot, we hit it off, and that was it. I started training with you. We were training like 7 days a week for like the first year. I had my mother training you, my sister training you, my ex training
your whole family.
You. Yeah, we were all going to you. I mean, every single week, and I was telling everybody that everybody would listen to me about this guy, and it wasn't long until you convinced me to do my first bodybuilding competition. Yep. Which really changed the trajectory of my whole world of working out and fitness and everything. Like I said, everything that I know now is because of this guy. So anyone who looks to me as someone who is in good shape, knows what he's doing working out, if you think I know anything, just know that I learned the majority of it from this guy. So that's the ultimate endorsement. If you think I'm anything, then you have to know this guy is just so many levels above it.
Thank you.
And
you know what?
It's crazy.
John, at that point in time, I had a show. It was the Paul Neville Long Island Championships in the NPC, and it's a beginner show. There's a lot of levels to shows. As you know, there's a pro qualifier, there's a national qualifier, meaning if you win, you qualified to go to the nationals. When you get to the nationals, if you win or take top 2 now in that division, you become a pro. My show wasn't sanctioned as anything other than a show to do. So I really felt like I had to do a pretty good job of promoting it because a lot of people want that next level. And if you win my show, it's, you know what, good for you. You won.
Now you're ready for the national qualifier.
But a lot of people now, especially now, they want immediate. How do we get a sponsor? Well, how do we get a sponsor? We have a sponsor. What are you talking about? You haven't worked out. You don't have, you never compete.
You look like shit.
Yeah, you look like shit. You think people, it's just, a sponsor is something that, you had to be entitled to that. You had to be Mr. Olympia. I mean, nobody had a sponsorship at that time unless you were somebody that brought something to the table. But that level got diluted a little bit. So to promote my show every year, I felt like my job was to try and take people like yourself. You're an easy candidate because you're already committed mentally, so that was easy. To take people and get them on stage. A lot of times when I took the phone calls, hey, I'm thinking about doing a show. Is it a national qualifier? My response, no, it's not. But can I ask you this? How many shows have you won in the past? Okay, well, you know what? There's no better feeling than having your hand held last. There's a great stepping stone for you to do, to have your family, your friends, and yourself to stand there as number one.
Yeah.
So that was my selling point.
I'm super competitive. I mean, what's funny though, I was not sold to competing at all. I remember
you were a tough sell.
I remember
for a guy that was so good and had the talent that you had, you were really tough sell. I tell people that have half your fraction.
I remember the exact moment it happened. I'll never forget that moment for as long as I live. We had been training at this point for probably, I met you in, I came back, it was August. We started training and the show was in May. It was 14-week prep and just 3 weeks. So it was probably about 3 months into us training. And then I guess you realized that at least I wasn't completely full of shit. Once my body started changing, I started snapping back to life. I started looking like somewhat of an athlete. And you were like, you ever think about competing? And I was just like, honestly, to be completely honest, I just can't see myself stepping on stage in a fucking bikini and flexing in front of 1,000 people. Like, it just, I'll never do that. You know what I mean? And you looked at me dead in the eye and you said 2 things. And you said, 1, when you step on that stage, you will be a literal ball of muscle. Everybody there is there to see balls of muscle and you won't feel bad or awkward about it at all. 2,
that's right.
I know what kind of person you are. You're goal driven and it always helps to have a finish line. That was the exact quote you said to me. Yeah. And it was like a light bulb went off above my head. I was like, wow.
You changed your perspective.
Wow. Like immediately, like the room spun. And I was like, he's right. Fuck it. Let's do it.
And when something like that happens too, knowing someone like yourself, because obviously anyone that knows, you don't play to lose and you play to get to the top. That becomes even though I talked into you, you're one of the few guys that I felt a little bit of pressure on. You got to deliver now. This guy's not doing this to lose. Like sometimes you talk people into doing, I know they're going to have a good experience, but if anything other than a win for you, I had a weird feeling. We're close. Obviously, I don't have to explain our friendship, but I just felt like if you didn't win, if you didn't come up, it might affect us a little bit. Like I had that's one of the few times I had a little bit of pressure placed on me that if I just talked this guy into it. If he walks away with a bad experience, it's going to affect my relationship.
He's like, what the fuck did you do?
Yeah, what do you do? So
set me up for failure.
Very rare. Honestly, there's a few times that certain things happen where, it just happened to me recently too with another woman I just trained. She used to train really hard back in the day, and everyone talks about how hard they used to train.
The glory days stuff.
Yeah, but this woman brought it to, she was 60 pounds overweight. She started, for cardio in between, I like to do cardio and weights because she's not up to doing a whole hour session. A little bit of mitts because she was into fighting. This woman was an animal. I found myself feeding into her workout that she hasn't worked out in 10 years. I stopped, I put the mitts on, I was like, hold on, time out. I can't, I got to control, you make this difficult for me. You're so intense that you're bringing out the monster in me, but you're not going to be able to walk tomorrow. Like I got to slow my roll down. And it was nice because I made a good person feel very good about
But
themselves.
that's what people you like to train.
Oh, I love
Those
it.
are fun.
I love it, but she's also paying me to be a professional. I can't feed it to your friend. What if you get hurt tomorrow? Oh, well, you know, it's on me.
Yeah.
So I had to really
Strike
slow
that
down
balance.
that. Yeah, like you're paying me for my professionalism. Meanwhile, I'm going with you. I'm going with your attitude because it felt right, but you're totally
How
out
old
of
is she?
shape. She's 52.
Yeah, geez. Yeah, you got to be careful.
And you know what I mean, John?
Yeah.
So, and I even explained that to her very few times in my career. If I had to like call time out,
Throttle it down.
and remember why you came to me. You came to me so you don't get hurt, so you get there, you cross the finish line. Right now, this sprint, you're not going to make the 10-yard line without pulling a hamstring or doing something. So anyhow, like yourself, very intense. And that was a great challenge. And honestly, it was a good time in my life too, having when you have a vested interest in someone having success. And I'll never forget, you might as well get into it now that, 3 weeks after the show, we were at Survival Gym Saturday afternoon.
To frame it for everybody.
Yeah, it's a Survival Gym.
That same show, the first show I ever did, we did a 14-week training camp. And people have heard this story already. It's been told a few times, never on record. So now we'll put it on a record and we can retire it. But it sucks for you if you have to hear it again. Too goddamn bad. He was still a little unsure of how fast my body was going to respond. And really nobody knows until they really get down.
Mm-hmm.
If you've never competed in bodybuilding or got down to that, couple percent body fat before, you don't know how your body's going to act. You don't know how body's going to respond to the training, the diet, the carb cycling, whatever it is you're doing, the cardio, whatever it is. So he wanted to give it extra. Normally it's a 10 to 12 week prep per show. 12 week, usually 10 week if you're really in shape already. We decided to do a 14 week prep that year, just to make sure that it was getting down to it, that we got there. The goal was I was 218 when we started prep. I didn't have a whole lot of muscle on me to begin with, to be in the light heavyweights, which is 198 to 197. We knew I was going to be outsized in that class. And we just made a gamble on it and said, you know what, let's suck down and make middleweights, which is under 176 to I believe above 155. And that's a lot of fucking weight. If you can't do the math, that's 42 pounds, I think it was. Right?
218, 208, 198.
Yeah.
Yeah.
42 pounds. We had 14 weeks. And we got down.
Yeah.
We got down. Every week we were hitting our markers. We would check in every week. If you have a good coach and when you're getting down to a contest prep, I was training with him every day, which is obviously excessive, but every week we would do a check-in. All right, what's your weight at? How did the week go? How do you look? And we'd reassess for the next week and he would tell me what adjustments to make. Okay.
And those adjustments, just if you're not, if you're new to it, those adjustments are basically John was carb cycling. So I would cycle the energy, which is carbohydrates. He had a high day, a medium day, and a low day, sometimes a high and a low, but it was either how much carbs. I never really changed the protein, which a lot of guys do these days. They change the protein sources.
We were eating 6 meals a day.
Yes, yeah.
And it was, day 1, 5 of the 6 meals are going to have carbs in it.
That's a high day.
It'll be a high day. Then it would be 4 out of 6, then 3 out of 6, 2 out of 6, 1 out of 6, and then spike it back up. And we would play with how many low days in a row would be and whatnot. So the weight was coming off exactly how you predicted it. And it was amazing to watch because he'd be like, you're going to lose, 2 pounds a week or forever long. And at first you might lose 3 and it's going to slow down to 2, but and you lose 1 pound a week. Whatever he told me was going to happen the next week, it always happened. It was crazy. And we never missed a mark.
Never.
On our first 11 weeks straight, we never missed a weigh-in mark. We said, okay, by next weigh-in, we're going to have to be at, 198. The next one, 196. Whatever it was, every single Sunday when we checked in, we were on point. So we were fucking high-fiving the whole time. Body started looking crazy. I was super happy. I was pumped up. And anyone who's ever gotten into that kind of shape before knows when you look in the mirror and every day you wake up and you're noticing changes, it's amazing. Yeah. We're 3 weeks out from the show. We're right on point with the weight. You wanted to be like the night before. You wanted to be like 5 pounds above, then drain the water or whatever it was. Yeah. So we were right on point where mathematically we were going to hit it perfectly.
Yep.
3 weeks out, we're training.
And you know what, John? Don't hold that because I know exactly what you're about to say. You walked into the gym, you're like, my legs are popping because your legs are a little bit behind everything else. Mm-hmm. I walked into the gym, you pulled your shit off and you pulled your legs down and your legs separate. Your legs had a separation that they've never seen. You got to that next level in that same day. And I'm like, all right, this ship's arrived now. Now I got no worries because that was the one thing that was a concern. Again, it's our first prep.
I have strong legs, but I never trained
you got a powerful physique.
Never trained bodybuilding style for my legs. I was always an athlete, so my legs were strong, but they were not. From anyone who doesn't understand, from a bodybuilding standpoint, when you're looking straight on at someone's leg, something called a sweep, which is the outside of your quad, and
vastus lateralis.
Yeah, see, now that stick out from the side is what makes everything from the front shots become appealing and bodybuilding like on point. And I don't have that. Still to this day, that's probably my weakest point, from a bodybuilding standpoint. But we got that day before we trained, let me see your legs, let's see the wheels. I'm in my boxes, he's looking at me, I'm showing him, and he's like, I see him smiling. When your coach smiles looking at you, you're elated. So we go through a leg workout, we're doing great. We wanted to do a glute and hamstring centered leg day. We were doing legs twice a week in rotation that time because they had to catch up. So we were doing like a quad dominant leg day, and then we did a glute and ham dominant leg day. This was a glute and ham dominant leg day. We were doing stiff-legged deadlifts. For those of you who don't know, that's basically a deadlift that goes down to the middle of your shins. And you feel a real stretch in your hamstring. And at this point, I'm rocking. So my strength is through the roof. We put a plate on each side. There was at a 12. It didn't even feel like there was weight. Two plates on each side. Didn't feel like there was any weight on there. 3 plates on each side. I still felt like there was nothing there. I've never felt stronger in my life.
And John, I never forget it. If you remember, you would go to 4, and I was 365.
Maybe 365 first.
Correct. And I was hesitant.
You're like, do 365 first. I did 365 for 12. You looked at me and you're like, that was too easy. I'm like, I'm telling you. I wanted to go 3 to 4 so badly. You're like, no. Do 365, see how you feel. And I didn't listen. Did 365 for 12, and that's a lot of weight. So that's
it turns 3 weeks out from the show when your joints are frail. They don't have the fat in them.
Dry.
Most injuries happen when you're close to a show. And it's really, think about this. You're in a caloric deficit. You're not going to gain any muscle 3 weeks out from a show. You're just trying to hold on to what you have. So to go for a PR, which he never really did, 4 or 5, but he just felt so good that day. Really, it was kind of like we shouldn't be doing this, but it felt so right, and we did it.
So when 3 plates did it, he's like, don't go 4. 365 did it. 405s on the bar. I go down my first rep. This is easy. I'm looking at him, like almost laughing at him, like, oh, you thought I couldn't do it. Second rep goes up. Third rep, I go down to do it. And I dropped the bar, and I felt something in my hamstring. And I thought he was spotting me. I thought he was standing behind me. And I felt like he bumped into me by accident. It felt like somebody hit me in the back of the leg.
That's right.
So I dropped the bar, and I turned around, and he's not behind me. He's like 5 feet away. And I'm so confused, and he's confused. And all of a sudden, I start feeling my hamstring, the muscle in my hamstring, just turn into a ball and curl up. And I was like, oh, no. Oh, my God. This can't be real life.
It can't be real.
I must be dreaming. This must be a fucking nightmare. I had just done 11 weeks straight where I've never tried harder at anything in my entire life. Nothing, literally. There's nothing I've given my heart into more in my entire life. I was 11 weeks straight where the plan that he laid out for me, I didn't miss a single thing. I didn't miss a single meal down to the fucking gram. Yeah. I didn't miss a single workout session. I didn't miss a single cardio, not a second that I got the treadmill early. I did everything exactly to plan. And in that moment, I literally it was heartbreak. It was absolute heartbreak.
Yeah,
I turned around.
That was devastating.
I looked at him. I'm like, I just tore my hamstring. And the look on his face was equal to my devastation because he was so invested in this. He was there with me every single day. Every single night we would talk. Yeah. I would call him, probably annoying the shit out of him, calling him every single day saying, I don't know, I feel a little flat. Should I eat? I'm sure just saying, just stick to the plan, John. Just stick to the plan. Your brain starts to go a little crazy when you're a few weeks out and you're deprived of food and you're training 3 hours a day and you're losing your shit. And he had to keep me on track, and he did. At that moment, I lost it. And I
remember saying to you too, John, just hold on a second. Just try and do a squat. Because I actually pulled the hamstring. Not nearly as bad as you, but I pulled it bad 6 weeks out from a show playing football like an idiot from my first show. And you don't realize how much your secondary muscles, the hamstrings, are involved with the squat until you hurt it. Anything past really a certain angle, it's your hamstring. You can't move. I realized, holy shit, I can't do a squat. I couldn't even come close. It's quad, hamstring. Maybe whatever the angle you want to call it, 75 degrees, whatever it is, well, your hamstrings take over. And I said, John, just do me a favor, see if he could squat. Because I knew right then and there, if he could squat, how bad it was. I couldn't feel it. I couldn't sense it. I knew it was bad by the look on his face. And I felt something was bad. You tried doing a squat and you couldn't move. I mean, you couldn't even bend your knee. It was bad. It was bad.
I froze.
And
I didn't want to move my leg. I had I had my legs locked out. I was standing. I didn't want to move. I was stuck in the middle of the gym, in the middle of the hallway in that small gym. Shout out to Leanne and Lou. I miss them.
Yes, Lou and Leanne.
And they're the owners of Survival Gym. And they were invested with me also. We trained in that same gym every single day, and I would see them every single day, and they were super excited for me. They were huge into bodybuilding. They were checking me, how you feeling, how's it going? They would look at me in the mirror. They would tell me, you look great. They were puffing me up, and it was an amazing family vibe over there. And
you know what's bad? when you left, you really didn't have much to say to me. We'd pick it up. You just, it was the silence. It was
We both
the
knew.
silence was so loud.
It was deafening.
That you left without saying anything. You walked there, you limped out and left. And Lou and Leanne looked at me and they didn't even say what, like, it was just, the silence was so loud that it was eerie. I just was so intense. Like, I didn't really know how it was bad. I think pretty much that's a wrap, man.
Yeah.
You just tore your hamstring.
So
I tore it off the tendon.
Yeah. So thank God it wasn't off the tendon, which is the only thing I think that saved me. So Leanne ran over with an ice pack, put it on the back of my leg and held it there. And she's like, it looked like she wanted to cry. We were all in a bad spot. Yeah. I limped out, hobbled out of the gym. I drove home. I only lived like a mile away from the gym there. And I'll never ever forget going home, laying down on that couch in the living room of that house and crying my eyes out. I cried my eyes out. I wanted this so badly. Man. And it just felt like the entire world collapsed around me. I just saw my entire 11 weeks worth of work, of dedication, of killing myself vanish because of one fucking bad rep on a set that didn't even make sense to me. Like, it felt light. How is this possible? How is this possible? And I went home and I cried for hours like a little fucking girl. I cried my eyes out in agony. The pain physically was minuscule compared to the mental anguish that I was going through, to watch all my dreams, my visions for the next little bit just explode into a million pieces. And I remember he was texting me, telling me like, just keep your head up, like it's gonna be all right, it'll be another show. And I remember talking to my pops, and he couldn't understand because to him he's just like, it's not a big deal, whatever. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, this is like, I've been eating, sleeping, breathing this shit. I took a few hours to feel bad for myself and cry my eyes out, and something clicked in my fucking head. I don't know what it was. And I just said,
it's 10 o'clock at night. You gave me a text. I want to do it.
I text Paul. I said, I don't care. We're going to figure this out. I want to do it still. And he's like, well, all right. Well, I don't know how, but we're going to figure this out. I had an emergency session called with Mike Camp. Yep. Anybody knows who Mike Camp is? Mike Camp is the greatest physical therapist God's ever made. I don't care what anybody fucking says. Question. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. I'm talking about like a genius. Same way that Paul is when he looks at you, when he starts analyzing your bone structure. This is how Mike is the anatomy. No question. And he'll sit there and break down things like you've never seen. And earlier in that prep, not to get off the topic, but I'd had a bad motorcycle accident when I was younger, and I fucking mangled my left arm. So I had gone to Mike Camp on prior recommendation because I had a bad shoulder injury. I couldn't lift my arm higher than this. Just want to get you an idea of how much of a genius this guy is. And I went in there, I told him about my shoulder, and he's like, all right, we'll see if we can work on it. I'd heard he was the best. Starts looking at me and making me move my arm. He looks at my shoulder, he sees the scar, and he says to me, well, what's that? I told him about the accident. He said, oh, well, that's the problem, not your shoulder. And I look at him like he has three heads. I'm like, nah, bro, like I feel the pain. It's in my shoulders. It had nothing to do with my elbow. He goes, just trust me. He starts working on my elbow. 3 weeks go by. I'm going to see him 2 or 3 times a week, working on my elbow. One of those times, those visits, a couple weeks later, he goes, how's your shoulder? I said, my shoulder, but working on my elbow. He goes, yeah, but don't you remember you came here for your shoulder? And my head exploded. I'm like, oh my God, I completely forgot. The shoulder pain had literally disappeared. He had fixed my shoulder through my elbow, and I was mind blown, sold. Whatever Mike Camp, my first kid, I'll name after him at that point. So I had a good relationship with them from being treated for that for so long, and then through that process of the camp, I was going to him once a week and getting like Graston technique done to me on my back, making sure I was breaking up scar tissue, whatever it was. I called him in an emergency. Anyone knows Mike Camp? He's like impossible to get to sometimes because he's so busy, because he's the best. He's like 2-3 weeks out sometimes to get an appointment. And thank God Mike hooked me up, and he saw me the next day. I went in still wanting to cry my eyes out. I was waiting for him to tell me there's no way you can do it. He goes, he looks at my leg, he analyzes it, he makes me do all these movements, he goes, it's torn, but it's not complete. It's not the tendon. He's like, you can't do any cardio with your legs or lift legs, but if you avoid it, you might be okay. That's all I needed to hear. And immediately we went and turned this story around from being at the depths of hell, where I thought if there was a high building I could access, I would have jumped off it, to no, fuck that, we're back on. So Paul said to me, you have the rower at your house. At that point I had one of those rowers. He's like, you can try to do that without the legs.
There's row.
Now,
no legs.
If anybody knows how miserable rowing is, I want you to picture this for one moment. We had to every day go and train and lift weights for an hour. We had to do upper body only at this point, obviously. At that point, 3 weeks out, we had to lose 40 pounds. So we were doing an hour of fasted cardio in the morning on the treadmill and an hour at night on the treadmill, 3.5 to 4 miles an hour for an hour, beginning in the morning and night, every single day, every single day. And now I had to do that on the rower with no legs. So I rode with my arms for an hour in the morning and an hour at night. And I don't think I can honestly tell you right now that if I tried that today, I would physically be capable of doing it. I don't think it'd be possible. I had it in my head that we had to make this show no matter what. And I would have done whatever. I would have walked on my hands to the corner and back 100 times if I had to. Yeah. I was possessed. And somehow we made it through those 3 weeks training with that, maintained our size, whatever it was, came into the Long Island Championships. Paul coached me all the way through to the day of, barely made weight, and then got on stage and we won the middleweight championship.
A good class.
The trophies, the plaques over there on the wall. And it's, in my opinion, one of my favorite perseverance stories of my own experience, because
it's tremendous.
I just, even though, I didn't win the Super Bowl, I didn't get a PhD, but to me, the mental aspect of overcoming what I came through, putting the dedication in, and then winning was something that I'll never, ever forget. And that whole experience, from getting into it to begin with, going through the prep, and bouncing back from that injury, was all because of this guy. Never could have done absolutely any of that.
You know what the coolest thing was since it was my show at the end of the day, and I didn't do it too often because I usually had someone that was sponsoring the show, the trophy award presentations, they sponsor the show, so you let them get their company recognized and someone hold up their arm. But obviously with you, there's a vested interest. I had nothing to do with the judging, so it never interfered with the judging who won, because it was my show. I wasn't a judge, so it had nothing to do with that, even though people thought that was it. I just trained a lot of people because that was my job, to get them on stage.
Yeah. But
when you won, it was a great feeling.
Yeah, you weren't a judge at the show.
I wasn't a judge, but people thought there was like nepotism or politics. Oh, Paul, so whoever trains with Paul wins, it's his show. That's not true at all. I had nothing to do with the judges. And Steve Weinberger is adamant about that, how like the integrity a lot of times of the judging. I was a judge.
He judged that show.
Yeah, Steve was a judge, and I remember I judged this. I'll tell you this story.
He's a jumper to the Olympia.
Steve Weinberg is the best judge I've ever seen. The story. Steve knows body types, who should win. He's the best judge, in my opinion, that I've ever encountered, as far as calling it what it is and seeing it from face value. No question. And he was Steve's the guy I went to in front when I was competing to go. And if Steve didn't have to even speak, I went in front, I peeled this shit off front up a bicycle, and his office was dark then. It was a different bevs. There was no pose room like that. Was in his office, and I could tell by his eyes if I had a good week of bed. He just looked at me, he just go this, or his eyes said it all. And that's all you need to know for the next week. But that being said, I had nothing to do with the judges. We were judging the Atlantic States one time. It was really close. It's a long day. And one of my buddies was in the show, and he looked over me. He's like, don't even think about it, Paul, because he thought I'd give my dog a nut, like my guy a nut. He's like, don't even think about it. Like he really takes, a lot, especially then. I'm not involved with the judging now, but back then, Steve was on point, man. Don't even try to put someone in a place that didn't belong. So when you won that, I never forget, I got to hold your arm up. I looked at you and you gave me a big hug. Like, I love you, man. It was just a really intense, great moment.
Amazing. I had 40 people in the stands. I'm
front row, the whole front. You bought every seat in the house almost. We did with Johnny.
I bought like 30 of the VIP seats. I had all my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, my family, my friends all showed up for me to support that day. It was amazing.
You know what, John?
Never forget that experience.
The thing that sometimes, you have a plaque to show for, you don't win money. But if anyone doesn't understand, really, if you can complete this contest prep diet, really do it right, and apply that to any other aspect of your life, whether job, relationship, or anything, that type of all in, everything's accounted for. I can't see how you can't succeed if you use that same formula. That's the value in bodybuilding. If you take that discipline and apply it to something else, you're not going to get the same reward in the mirror. That's gratification, almost immediate gratification. But the work ethic and the discipline that's shown to be a successful bodybuilder, if you can apply that somewhere else.
1,000%. I tell everybody that was the hardest thing I've been through my entire life, as far as the long term. Like, obviously we've had deaths and stuff like that. It's different. But I'm saying, as far as pushing yourself, I don't think there's anything as hard as that. I can imagine the only thing that would probably be harder in sports might be a camp for fighting. I think that might be the only sport that's tougher.
Yeah, could be.
I've played every other sport, but it's not the same. Practicing for basketball or football is not like bodybuilding, where you practice, for all year round to have one game, and then you're on stage, and if you come on game, it's like whoever comes on game day the best automatically wins. You don't get to make it up with will on stage, or out compete or out hustle. You're just there. You're just standing there, and you are what you are today, and the work's already done.
It's a funny point, because I trained this one guy, one of my clients, and he's an amazing All-American football player. He was amazing. He didn't take the prep that serious. I'm like, hey, I don't remember. Yeah, I will even use the name because he had a great story. He finished well. Brett Wilson.
Yeah, he's got a
and I'm like,
free
hey,
pills.
Brett, this isn't a football game. I'm not going to hand you you're not going to have a big day on Saturday. Your big day is right now in the preps.
Yep.
You're not going to have, like Brett was used to on Saturday. He was a game player. On game day, this guy was better than everybody else.
Alive.
He comes alive. But in bodybuilding, you can't have a big day if you screwed up your prep. You're going to have a really
like
bad day.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard pill to swallow for somebody like ego like that.
And so sometimes you have to understand it's you can't make up for a lot of time. It's just time. There's just consistency over time that makes bodybuilding very different than everything else. And here's something else. One of the hardest things you can do as parent, right? If I go to McDonald's and I have a number 2 meal, it doesn't make me a bad dad. I go to McDonald's and have a number 2 meal. What'd you just do? You just blew your prep. You know what I mean? For 12 weeks, I've never felt anything that you're so accountable for that everything you do has a reaction. It's crazy.
Everything that goes in your body.
Yeah, think about that. But I take parent really seriously. I mean, there's nothing I would do for my kids, but it didn't make me a bad guy if I had a glass of wine. Yeah. It didn't make you a bad guy if I went to McDonald's or something. And you do any of those things in prep, you can't live with yourself.
And the hardest part is you have to be on point when nobody's watching.
That's integrity.
Nowadays, it's like the hardest thing, right? Everybody wants to put on for social media and whatnot. I don't think I had social media during my prep, thank God. But
no, you didn't.
But the hardest part is being accountable when there's nobody there. When you go when it's midnight and you can't sleep and you just finished an hour of cardio and you're going to sleep only to wake up and do another hour of cardio and it just so happens to be low carb day or no carb day. You haven't had carbs since yesterday. Your insides are screaming, your brain's scrambled, and all you want to do is sneak downstairs to the cabinet and eat some fucking bread or eat anything you're not supposed to eat, and no one will know.
Yeah.
But you know. And that was the one thing that stuck with me with the whole thing, and it would have taught me for sure was, when you show up to a bodybuilding competition and people, I think I actually won my second competition based on this confidence alone. I went on the stage both times with nothing to fear. Losing, if I lost, obviously I'd have been pissed off, but I knew both times I gave everything that I had in that prep. There was
you can't lose.
There was no regrets. I couldn't be like, fuck, I wish I wouldn't have cheated that one time. I wish I would have just done that. There was nothing left. If I lost, the guy was better than me. It is what it is. You can't take it from me what I did. But if you go there on stage with something left in the tank, something on the table you didn't fucking do, that'll eat you up forever if you fucking don't win. Forever. And that carries on to everything in life, in my opinion. It's one of those things where sports teaches you life. And it's the same thing for business. If you're in a business and the business fails, but you gave it your all and it was external, circumstances that did it, I mean, it is what it is. Pick your pants up, go to the next one. But if you could have worked a little bit harder, you could have put in more hours, that decision you knew wasn't a good one. Same thing with relationships. You gave it your all with the girl and it didn't work out, you part ways. But if you could have done better, you could have been more for her, that'll eat you the fuck up. And that taught me that lesson in a very, very, very extreme way.
One more, I'll put it this way. What more can you do than everything you can?
Nothing.
At the end of the day, you never lose. You might get beat, but you didn't lose. You might get beat because something was better, but you didn't lose if you did everything possible.
Yeah, because somebody could be further along in the journey than you.
Yeah,
that's the crazy thing about bodybuilding is you have no idea who your opponent is.
Yeah.
I mean, at the highest level, they might know when they go to the Olympia who else is going to be there. But when you're showing up to a local level show and even national qualifying shows, the big regional shows, you're going there and you have no idea who's in your weight class, who's going to show up that day. You can get beat by some fucking mutant. Think about any bodybuilding geek like ourselves who's here, who listens to this right now. Think of their favorite bodybuilder. Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, Phil Heath, whatever. It doesn't matter who it is. At one point, they were in regional shows. They were in small shows. So think about the guys that were in their weight class before they knew who that person was and before he was a name, showing up to their regional show, thinking they're ready to go, and then Kai Green walks in, which, funny, I'll forget that in a second. Or Phil Heath walks in, Ronnie Coleman walks in, Arnold Schwarzenegger, whoever walks in, and it doesn't matter what you did, you're going to lose. So it's a strange sport.
You know what, too? That's really important is when I look for when someone talks to me about why they want to do it is why? Why do you want to do it? What's driving you? What's driving you to do it? That's a really important reason, motive. The motive to do it is really, really important to me.
I feel that in everything in life, the why is always more important.
It's why. What's driving you to do this? And I pay attention to that a lot because you can tell a lot about that story right there, what's going to happen in the end. It's just a feeling. So
I want to just go back to real quick because I
hold that thought. Okay, I know you're going. We talked about something that you just brought up, but you didn't have a social media outlet. Like since I've been around. I'm 52. I started getting into bodybuilding in the 80s. And a lot of times people don't understand the difference between the 80s and now is it's so different. And I'm not gonna say it's better or worse. It was just different because there was no accessibility to you when you're in the gym. You were never distracted. So when we talked about that all-in focus, when you're 100% committed because there's no distractions, your girlfriend, your job, your mom, whatever, no one can get a hold of you when you're in the gym.
Yeah, in the 90s, you mostly didn't have cell phones.
Yeah. So when no one can get a hold of you, your partners, that's everything in life. That's everything that mattered, is right in front of you. That even now, I left my phone the other night. I went out to a dinner, and my phone died early in the night, so I didn't really check it. And because I didn't check it, I forgot it at the restaurant. The next day, when I train my clients, I probably gave some of the best sessions I've given lately because I knew I wasn't, even if I don't answer a text, you still, that's for a second rent space, and it derails you from that. What was just right? The 5 inches, that anymore. 6 inches in front of your face is everything. Mm-hmm. And that, I can't tell you, it actually changed. I mean, I'm writing up a new business model right now, and it changed the way, my usage of the phone. It's so distracting and it's so addicting. You make a post, you want to find out the response to this, that, and but it's all bullshit in the big scheme of things. Mm-hmm. It's all bullshit to the big goal, but we're so programmed that it matters so much. I mean, it's so ingrained in us how important.
It's a tool like anything else, right? Like a gun, like anything else, it's got to be used and not let it use you. I mean, it can be great. Social media can be amazing. This week, I'm working with the school PS63 in the Bronx again. We're doing a toy drive. We're trying to raise money and, get some toys to the kids. And I put it out the message on social media, and I had 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people reach out to me and say, hey, I want to be a part of this. I like what you're doing. How do I do it? And all I had to do was then post a link to the page for the Walmart, which also go to my Instagram. I'm going to post it again for the toy drive. Please help out with that. But it was amazing because in my head, I'm going, there's no way I could have done this without social media. I just had God knows how many 30, 40 toys be donated in the last 2 days. Based on one post that I made on social media, and it just, people see it. So social media can be amazing, but at the same time, it can be the devil. It can be the thing that throws you off track. It can make you feel worthless. It can make you distracted, keep you away from your goals. And in the gym, it's a killer. I see so many people. I mean, I use the phone in the gym sometimes. I like to put out the content. I need to be able to keep people engaged, see what I'm doing. That's kind of my brand. Fitness is part of the brand. So, but even that I hate. Like if I was in the regular gym, I probably wouldn't even be doing it or asking my body, hey, just film this set real quick. Right. It pains me to do that, to be honest with you, but I got to do it. It's just how it is.
You have to.
But the one thing you don't want to be doing is in between sets, texting. Yeah. Like when you're in that mode, when you're all locked in the gym, you got to have hat low, hoodie on, music in, whatever it is that gets you in that zone. So all you're thinking about is that next set. You visualize that next set. You feel that next set. And then you go and execute that next set. You're not thinking about, oh shit, who just texted me? Oh shit, that was a funny meme. Like that's all throwing you off your game. Focus is everything. And in fitness and training, I think more than most.
First question.
That's what you're saying. That's why you think the 80s, 90s guys were better, or not better, but
there's two reasons. One is there's far less distractions, and I don't care what you say. Even if you put your phone down on the other side of the room, it's still there. You still let me check that phone. Let me see if someone just called. God forbid, someone got a hold. Yeah, that's a distraction.
You have to make a conscious decision not to look at it.
Yeah, it's still a thought.
Yeah,
it's still a thought. It's still empty. So that was one of the things. Two, definitely, at that point in the 80s and 90s, there was no other avenues for athletically minded and built athletes to pursue.
It's weird though. So like the guys in the 80s and 90s, they seem to me at least to be so much better conditioned, right? That's the big distinguisher, you'd say? I would say,
but they didn't have probably the size that they had now, but they're conditioned, they train more.
So that's what I'm saying. So the guys now are definitely bigger for as a whole, as an average, right? The top 10 guys. Because you had big guys back then too. You had Marcus Rules. You had guys that were gigantic. But
it's more 90s, yeah. I'm in the 80s too.
Yeah, okay.
Marcus Rules was huge. I mean, that was a different...
Dorian changed its size.
Dorian changed the game forever.
Crazy.
And what was interesting about Dorian was so fascinating because here's this guy.
The Shadow,
because he lived in England.
Put a picture of Dorian Yates if you can.
Here's this guy. Here's this English white guy from England that showed Dorian Yates. And he had this training style where he only trained 3 days a week for 45 minutes and only did like 6 sets in a workout. And when you saw him, he was the first 300-pound bodybuilder really with abs. Like I was there in Hofstra at the Atlantic States when he guest posed.
Jesus
that black
Christ,
and white picture changed bobodybuilding. Those black and whites right there that you
from
see.
The dungeon.
Yeah.
So he used to, so people, like we were saying, you didn't have social media at all. Internet, I don't think even existed back then. Or if it did,
so
it was like it was
you were a bodybuilder, or there wasn't.
All you saw these guys was on was show day.
Yeah, and honestly, I remember there was no way of even finding out who won. I had a call I lied to Wayne DeMille, the promoter of the show, and just said I was his brother, to get him on the phone to find out who won. You couldn't find out. There's no internet. There was no way to find out who won the Olympia. You had to go to the magazine was published the next month.
Unbelievable.
So I remember my buddy and I would find out different ways to get a hold of the promoter to find out who won the show. It was just nuts. But Dorian, that's black and white.
So he brought the size that had never been seen in bodybuilding before. It was always big guys. But Dorian came back. What was the year when he came back? 93?
1992, he won the Olympia. He lost to Lee Haney in 1991. It was very close. Lee Haney was an 8-time Mr. Olympia, 7. Going into that, he won. And he did win. He beat Dorian. It was close. But that was the best, probably, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, the best bodybuilder that's ever stepped on stage. That 1993 last spread of Dorian.
So then Dorian went back and they called him the Shadow. He went to
England.
Yeah, he went back to England where he lived. He changed in the dungeon base. What's the name of that gym he changed at? Temple gym, in that basement dungy ass gym, and just went to work. And he came back the next year and he emerged from the shadows
and blew everybody away.
Nobody had ever seen a physique like this before. Ever. He was gigantic and hard as granite. And from that point on, it's widely said that Dorian literally changed the trajectory of bodybuilding forever. Because at that point, if you didn't have that kind of size, you weren't going to compete. So and everybody's really, playing the size game.
And John, he clearly won. But Flex Wheeler in 1993 was phenomenal. If you pull up Flex Wheeler in 1993 was probably his best. He won the Arnold Classic. He was amazing. That's an older shot of Flex. But if the sport would have chose Flex's symmetry and pleasing physique, it might have gone a different direction.
100%. I mean, I personally think, in my opinion, I think Flex Wheeler, there's that one shot of him when he has his head down and his hands out to the side.
It's phenomenal. But the one thing about Dorian, John,
right there. So you see that shot right there?
That's a little bit later, too. That one to the right is him young. That top right, that's a young Flex.
I like bold Flex.
They're
Go
different.
down a little bit so you get a full body. Okay, right? You see the middle of the screen toward the bottom now? Down 2? Right there. That shot of Flex Wheeler, in my opinion, is the greatest bodybuilding physique in history. It looks like a cartoon.
You look at his abs, his arms,
what the fuck is that? Everything's so round. That's unfucking real.
Flex Wheeler's probably...
He has the best genetics ever.
Yeah, I agree. He didn't have the best work ethic.
I mean,
Dorian hates to even say it. If Flex had my mindset and my work
he would have killed
ethic,
him.
Who knows? He would never say he beat me. He was doing not doing his way, but he would say, "Who knows what would have happened?" Flex Wheeler is amazing, no question.
It's unbelievable. It's like it doesn't even. I mean, obviously, all his guys look unreal.
That was 1993, right there. That third picture in. Look at the detail in his back. He was 222 pounds.
Jesus,
I mean, that's blown up. Look at how round. Look at the insertions. Look at how round he. I mean, he's the epitome. He's built. Honestly, it's hard to say as a guy, but he's beautiful. Look at his build. You know what I mean?
The physique is beautiful. It's absolutely surreal. It doesn't even look real.
Unbelievable, man.
You can't picture. That's my point.
But then there was Dorian that you caught the most massive freak of nature you'll ever see.
A harder look.
It was two perfect storms. That's the sultan of the symmetry.
Yeah.
Versus the ultimate mass monster, the first true, and Dorian. And Dorian, unless you see him in person, Flex will always look better in any picture we see than Dorian. But if you see him, Dorian had a 3-dimensional look, the depth of his, unless you see in person, you'll never understand who Dorian was. When he turned side, when he walked out, the first reaction was this. What the hell was that? Is he wearing a suit? Is that a muscle suit? Like, it was that.
Yeah, people still talk about that. Like, there was literally a gasp in the room when he came out the first time.
I was there. It was a gasp. We looked and I couldn't believe what the hell am I looking at?
No one ever seen anything before like that.
No. And he had this and he was very, and he wasn't there because Dorian got the purpose, John. We talked about that. Why? Dorian got into bodybuilding and actually wanted to impress other people. It was a way to change his life. He was in jail. It was a way for him to change his...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was a skinhead. He was in jail and he started lifting weights and he realized really quick that he got stronger and better than everybody else very quickly. And it was a way to him to change the direction of his life. I'm pretty good at this if I really follow this. So the first thing he did, he went to the library, started reading for 6 months and took to Arthur Jones because Arthur Jones didn't have any financial stake in it. He was a very wealthy man that loved training and had a very similar belief.
Who's Arthur Jones? Is the guy you talked about earlier.
Arthur Jones, not Scott Conley. Arthur Jones developed Nautilus. The original Nautilus line was Arthur Jones.
The famous Dorian lap
pullover.
Yeah.
And Arthur Jones, like Mike Mentzer, like Dorian, believed that the heart of training is an adaptation to stress. Mm-hmm. And if you don't reach a certain stress threshold, you'll never stimulate enough motor units to generate hypertrophy.
Yeah.
So you can hit a cap 100 times and never set it off, which a lot of guys do. They're in the gym for 2 hours doing this. Or that one set. That one rep, that one time you hit the cap, pop, and it goes off. That's their theory. You have to set it off. You have to reach a certain impact level threshold.
You say it all the time. But you need to give your muscles a reason
to change.
Otherwise, they won't.
Most people train. Let's call it what it is. If you read the same chapter in a book, how can you get smarter?
Yeah, I like that.
If you're training and doing the same workout you've done for the last 3 weeks, yeah, it's good for you, but it's maintenance. You can't go somewhere unless you've done something you've never done before. You can't get to a different place unless you do things you've never done before, and that includes the gym.
I think that really touches on a subject that I found fascinating, and through meeting you, I realized kind of where it was. I'd gotten to a point where my exercising was mundane, and I was very complacent in how I looked and how I felt before I'd fallen off that year. But I'm just talking about my schedule was the same. It's Monday, it's chest and tris, and then it's back and bis, and you get into a routine, it starts to get boring, and that's when you plateau. Everything that our body does is an evolutionary tool that we've developed over hundreds of thousands of years. And, one of them is when you break down a muscle and it needs to adapt to make sure it can handle that workload again. And if you don't give it that kind of stress, it's going to stay the same. You're never going to get bigger. But it's amazing the depth and knowledge and how deep, how many, like I say, I love brings up in everything I talk about is there's levels to it, right? And just realizing the levels that I didn't know existed in fitness and training was mind blowing to me. Like the thing that I took away from me, I think the most in training is what you call two things: is the mind to muscle connection, which is exactly what it sounds like, right? A lot of people train, they work out in the gym, and just because of pure ignorance, in the literal definition, they don't know any better, which was myself included for the first 27 years of my life. If you're just moving weight around, you're not actually bodybuilding, right? You can get stronger that way, and you will get stronger that way because your body's adapting to the stress of the weight. But if you want certain muscle groups to grow, you need to make sure you're actually targeting that muscle group and isolating them. So that is the mind to muscle connection. For example, a lot of times with back, people have a hard time actually connecting with their back.
Because you can't see it.
Yes, strictly because you can't see it. It's harder to make that mind muscle connection if you can't look at it, right? And see if it's actually flexing and pumping what it is. So I remember we were doing lat pull downs at first, and I was ego lifting a little bit when I was with you. I probably wanted to impress you a little bit with my strength when we first started training. And you go, whoa, Jonny, take it easy. Pull through your elbows, not through your hands. And at first I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? I'm holding the goddamn thing. I'm taking, 200 pounds in a lat pull down, and I'm thrusting with momentum, and I'm pulling back, and I'm making it go up and down. I think I'm doing a set. And you're like, no. You cut the weight in half. And you said, drive with your elbows. And then this first time, and you made me pull my elbows forward. A lot of people doing lat pull downs like this. You made me push my elbows forward.
Yeah.
And you made me say, pull with my elbow. Pretend like your hand, you said, I was using wrist wraps. You're like, pretend like your elbow to your hand are just extensions of the bar. Close your eyes and pretend you're moving the weight with your elbows. I remember moving my arm forward, pulling it, arching my back a little bit, and pulling down with my elbows. And for the first time, I felt what it was like to isolate that piece of my back. And it was, again, light bulb moment. I remember Mike Riggio was with me that day, who was a really good friend of mine. And same thing. He left there, and I wasn't sure how he was feeling because he's in his zone. He's very intense, and he wasn't saying much. And when we left there, he goes, bro, I can't believe that those small little adjustments he made changed everything. My back is fried right now. And then I started applying that with your help and on my own time also with every movement I did. Okay, if this movement is to train my bicep, then why am I using my front delt raising the dumbbell? Yeah. Why am I using momentum and swinging? No, if you want that body part in particular to be affected and to be the one that's getting the brunt of the work, only move that body part. So now I would go super strict, upright, pin my elbows to my side, and I'd only move the bicep. And with less weight, less reps, less effort, honestly, just more of a mental connection, my results from there on went through the roof. And it's never the same again.
I bet you, John, if you asked any bodybuilder, myself included, so I'll tell you exactly, it was 1987 in the all-natural gym in Lindenhurst when I was doing a T-bar row, when all of a sudden I felt my lats. I learned how to properly pop my chest, retract my scapula, pop your chest, which if you open your chest, you squeeze your shoulder blades. I did it with a weight that was moderate, and I never forget how much, I was like, holy shit, what the fuck was that? I got off the thing, and my lats flared up, they blew up with blood. I'll never forget that day. It changed my back training for the rest of my life. Once you feel it that one time,
It's like dancing. It's like dancing.
Yeah,
like,
you get it.
You see someone, yeah, you get a rhythm. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, that's how it's done.
That's it, man. That's it.
And then it makes sense. And then you carry it out to every
no
other
other body parts like back.
It's the hardest
Because you can't see it. There's no proprioception. It's all feel.
They all feel.
I'd say it all the time. Stop training. Stop lifting weights and train. Feel. Stretch. Flex. Stretch. Flex.
That's
feel.
everything that feel.
Yeah.
That's why sometimes
Yeah,
I like when I'm trying to explain it to people now, and I help people kind of, I'm training them or working out with them, I tell them to close their eyes. Because they can't, if you, on all body parts, like stop relying on your eyes for doing it. Close your eyes and make sure where you actually feeling this. And then sometimes it helps, you do this all the time to me, is you put your hand
on the muscle,
on the spot.
creating a neurotransmission to that area.
It's like, where are you supposed to feel this? We're doing a back move right here. And then if you're doing a rep and you don't feel it there, you know it's wrong. And you adjust the angles and the elbows until all of a sudden, oh, that's the spot. That's how it is. Keep it there. Now, the second thing, the biggest takeaway, if anybody can learn something from this episode, and what I took from him, which is just priceless, is a concept called time under tension. So in combination with mind to muscle connection and time under tension, that is what bodybuilding is about. You can do it. You can change your methods and your rep counts and your ranges and how long you train, how you diet. That's all after the fact. But those two things are what separates moving weights around. I lift things up and put them down. You want to be a lunk from Planet Fitness, or you want to actually get the results and like for an aesthetic, like you want to look good, and that's what it is. So time under tension concept is basically during a set, how much of it was the muscle that's being targeted, the one we're talking about that we're isolating, the one that we're doing that mind to muscle connection with, how long is it actually being activated and being used? Perfect example, right? A good one to do it, okay, shoulders, right? We're going to do lateral raises. You got a dumbbell in each hand, your hands out to the side, and you're doing a rep. Chest, no matter what it is, a lot of times it's almost the opposite of what you expect. Remember when you're younger, if you didn't touch your chest on a bench press and go full elbows locked out, you cheated. Not a full rep. Maybe so if you're in competitions. But if you're looking to work out, it's better to actually stop slightly short of all the way down and all the way up. It shortens the range of motion, which, if you're thinking about it from a surface level logic, doesn't make sense why it's better. But if you think about it, if I'm doing shoulder raises, I'm doing to the side. If I'm coming back down, the second I get lower than, I don't know what that is, 30 degrees, if you go down and touch your hip again, your shoulder's no longer in play. While the dumbbell's resting on your side, your shoulder's no longer firing. If you come down and you stop 3/4 of the way right here, not only is that bottom very difficult to then change the direction because there's no momentum, but the entire time your shoulder's under tension. Same with chest. If you're bench pressing, don't lock out all the way to the elbow. Stop just short, because when you're locked out, now all the tension shifts off the chest muscle and into the ligaments in your elbows and your shoulders to stabilize. So now you stop just short, and when it's on your chest, same thing, the weight comes off. So if you stay in that range where you're just in between and you go, a couple inches from your chest and not locked out and back down, the entire time you're doing that set, you're locked in and your muscle is now firing the entire time. And it's literally, in my opinion, the difference of doubling a set. Like the effectiveness of that one rep, that one set is like doing 2 sets the other way.
It's fun. Now you still really talk about training. My blood pressure goes up.
I know. I want to go lift right now.
Here's something interesting. Almost all pec tears happen on flat bench, right? Ever hear someone do it? Tear the pec?
Always.
Okay.
Flat
Here's what
bench,
happens.
always.
So if you're in a chest press, right, you retract your scapula. When you come down, the full range of motion of the pec, for the most part, is going to be about 2 inches above my chest. If I pop my chest, squeeze my shoulders, bring my arms down, and then drive my elbows through center, the proper mechanics of a chest press, I'm going to be 2 inches short. Can I touch my chest? Sure. But that's prying my rotator cuff. And through years and years of doing that, because it's very impinging, a flat bench is the most impinging move for the chest. The purpose of the pectoralis isn't to press away. It's to pull the humerus bone down and across the body. Okay? Mimicking decline. A lot of people don't realize it, but a decline is a tremendous move. We all use incline, and I did it in my career too, but it's not the best way to build a bigger chest for 2 reasons. One, it's not biomechanically the right plane of motion for the chest. Well, this is a decline.
That's funny because everyone says start with incline, And
I did too, but you start with incline. But think about it. You have a pec minor and a pec major. Franco Colombo was the best at that separation, that pec minor and major. The pec major is the meat and potatoes of your chest.
The bottom half.
So no matter what, even on your best day, the upper sheath is thinner. It doesn't have the genetic potential on anybody to match the lower half. So if you're trying to build a bigger chest, why not play into your strength, your natural God-given strength, origin, insertion-wise, muscle body-wise, And when your chest gets too big, then worry about it. But we all placate into
I don't know
that.
anybody with a chest that's too big.
Yeah, but think
Men,
about
at
that,
least.
John. You're placating, and at best case scenario, it's going to be worse. The lower is going to be better. A decline press, and I was one of the first guys. And it's really interesting that now.
Another fascinating part about what you just said too is people don't realize. So each muscle has a group within the muscle, right? So like you just said, there's the major and the minor in the chest. It's really a two per pec. It's got two muscles. Because you hear people talking about like, I want to hit my outer chest or inner chest. It really doesn't work like that so much. Am I right?
To an extent, no, because really, so you can't really reshape your chest. You have what you
You're either
have.
working the top or
However,
the
think
bottom.
about this though, John. This is an interesting perspective. It's not contrary to what we're saying, but it's if you're doing a fly, the fly is going to work more of the origin. The origin is here. The insertion is here. The origin is the outer pec. When you're doing a fly, it's going to be the stretch. It's going to work the outer head a little bit more. But when you come up here, once gravity is resistance on a fly, gravity, okay? So when you come down, when you come up, once you get to here, the resistance stops. Unlike a pec deck or a cable crossover, which is more for the insertion, the cleavage, where listen, no matter what you do, a fly is going to work. If they put the impedances on you and they test the neurological transmission, it's like a 15% difference between outer and inner. So is there a difference? You're always going to work your chest on a
stand
fly.
corrected. This is why I asked
Slightly
Master.
corrected. Slightly correct.
But
I'm
now,
not correcting you. I'm just telling you there's a little bit of a difference between, think about the resistance at the top of a cable crossover. At the bottom, there's still resistance. The cable is still pulling. Where a fly, it doesn't.
I listen to Master Yoda. Now, what you said also ties back into the time of detention thing. It's a very important tip for people out there. Flies. If you're doing flies, doesn't matter if you're on incline, flat, whatever it is, if you're using dumbbells, same thing with time of detention. You can go all the way deep, and I encourage that for a nice stretch at the bottom with the fly, right? But when you get to the top, if you're using dumbbells and you're laying down, the source of the weight and resistance is coming from gravity, right? You're laying down, and the weight's heavy because gravity's pulling it down. So when you get past your arms being directly in line with your shoulders, from here to here no longer does anything. So it's the same thing. It's like you think you're shorting the rep, but you're not actually helping yourself. You're hurting yourself by completing that rep because
The next
there's
3
no
reps is
tension.
so much harder.
And there's no tension there.
Yeah.
From here to here does nothing but you using your shoulders and stabilizing muscles to pull it in. However, for a variation of that, so that you do have tension, time under tension with the muscle from beginning to end, is using cables. If you use cables that are pulling from pulleys on the sides of you, think about it. When you're at your deepest part, it's still got a tension. And when you get to the middle, since you're no longer relying on
resistance.
gravity and the weight's being pulled in either direction, you're going to have tension all the way through. So now it makes sense. If you're doing that on a pec deck or if you're doing that on a cable machine, you can go all the way to the middle and almost touch because you have tension the whole way through. Here to here is still resistance.
You know
very,
what?
very important tip that people need to
You know,
keep
how
in
about
consideration.
this? Because you're never going to get as big with machines as you will with free weights because of the direct resistance it creates to the whole joint. If you're benching anything with free weights, the whole area has to stabilize, lift, and contract, and balance. You have to balance, stabilize, and lift. Where on a machine, it's already stabilized for you. It's balanced for you. You just have to lift. So that creates a lot less resistance. Hence, you're not going to get the same stimulus as you would with free weights.
I also find it to be like when it locks into that track, it puts my joints in unnatural positions. You don't have that wiggle room when you do it like with I'm talking about dumbbells, not barbells here. Like you have dumbbells, you have a little bit of a give. If you're stuck in that one track,
it's easy to
unnatural
isolate.
for your shoulders and unnatural for your elbows and shoulders though.
Because what one machine fits everybody's body type.
Yeah. How could it?
How could it? Especially me. Like here's something, and it sucks for me because I'm short. But that Dorian Nautilus lat pullover, how the hell can I use it? Because I can't put my elbows on the pegs; they're too damn short.
Yeah, I can't.
So
either.
I can't keep my elbows down. So I have to come up a little bit, and it's not the same. It's not the same.
I was at what's the place was that South Shore Iron.
Yeah. I just was there today.
With great gym. I
Great
love them.
gym, nice
Shout
equipment.
out to Dave and Vinny.
Vinny Vincenzo. Yeah, man.
So we went there and we did a back workout with him for Kill Jonny, and he's a fucking monster. And his back is like abnormal.
I gave him a hug. Oh, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, you can't even reach around him. It's
he's
fucking,
big, dude.
it's insane. He's like, at that point, he was like almost 300 pounds with abs. And he finished it off and he was talking about, he said he loves Dorian also. And he's like, Nautilus pullover. And I was just like, I got to tell you, man, I'm not connecting. I'm not feeling it because I'm not built for that machine. We need to get that guy to make us like a custom one for me and you.
Yeah, man. And you look at that one piece. Arthur Jones was so ahead of the game. It's how many years later? It's 50 years later that he invented it, and it's still the best piece because of the mechanics. Once they make a mechanic, they put a patent on it and stuff. But his mechanics, that guy, man, that's why Dorian really followed his stuff. It's amazing.
I love the new machines from Arsenal. Arsenal Strength.
What do you like? Which ones do you like?
I love that. There's 3 machines from that I think
the
are
back
amazing.
piece is really good.
Which one?
The back row. The back.
When you lean on the pad.
Yes.
That one's amazing with the multiple grip.
Yes, that's a great one of the best. Yeah.
I love that one. I love the standing one that you can do lateral shoulders, or if you flip and invert the the
I never used that.
You can do the cable crossover type of deal.
Wow.
It's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
You can do, it's a handle sticking out, the waist stack in front of you, and if you know how you move a pec deck from chest to rear delts, you can switch the thing.
Yeah.
They do that where resistance is from the bottom up or bottom down. So you start at the bottom, and the resistance is this way for shoulders, and then you move it, lock it in, change it, and now you can grab it from here and pull it in for chest, standing.
Wow.
Incredible piece. And then they have a great chest fly piece where you lay down, and there's the handles that come out on either side, and it's plate loaded, and you do flies with it. And for some reason, the motion is so smooth, it's like no fly piece I've ever done before. And you can really get some serious weight on there, and it's so natural of a feeling, and it's incredible. We gotta build some shit out.
There's a couple, and because of my stature. And Dorian really used everyone thinks it's a stretch move, but he built his lats. Dorian also changed back training because his back was ridiculous by using everything underhand. Bent over rows overhand. When you pull, you're going to pull your rhomboids, your traps, your rear delts more. When you go underhand and come up, you can use more weight, and that's why he tore his bicep. He was using, I think, 365 or 405, close to his show. But your biceps, your hand is all the way supinated, which is weak. I did the tire flips a couple of times, and I hurt my insertion so bad one time, because your hands are all the way open, the tendons opened up, and it's at weakest point. Everything neutral is stronger. So, Dorian tore his biceps. He was doing heavy weight, reverse grip. But by having a reverse grip, whether it's a lat pull down, a row, if you do it and think about it, the connection to your lat, the lat is way better. Way better.
It's funny. I think about Dorian once a back workout, and that pops in my head.
He deserves it.
He's just synonymous with back.
Yeah.
You think of Dorian, you think of back. It's just like, all right, throw in one set or one exercise underhand. Every single time I've been doing back, I throw at least one in there underhand, and I think of Dorian when I do it. So, Dorian, I hope to meet you one day. I hope to have you on here.
He's really awesome. One of the things he said to me,
I'm going to do ayahuasca with Dorian. I wanted to
ever read that his Joe Rogan experience when we talked about ayahuasca?
He runs a class now.
I would do it.
Okay, so
you know why? He said when you came back from it, the reason why he stopped training with weights was not to make this a Dorian episode, but the reason why he stopped training with weights because he realized when he went there that what the fuck am I doing? I'm tearing my body apart. I've already been to the highest platform, and it just doesn't feel right. He's getting hurt, and his body needs to open up and heal.
His whole back is tattooed with the image that he saw on a DMT trip.
Yeah.
So now once a year, he does ayahuasca quite often, and
I'm not sure of the two. I know one of the trips he went on, he said, I don't want to get into this, but I wish every politician would go on when they come back. They'd have to look at themselves in the mirror for face value.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people could use that right now. But he now teaches, now I'm blanking out. I forget if it's in Peru or if it's in DR, whatever it is, once a year now.
I think it's South America.
Dorian gives a class now where he'll go with you in a group and you take ayahuasca with the shaman. He does it with you. And it's like a 2 or 3 day experience.
Yeah, because you have to eat a certain amount of food. They do chants. They do things to get you prepared to have the best.
You down to go?
Yeah, man.
I can't think of anybody I want to go there with more than you.
You know what? Because if you can really dive into yourself and figure out things that we all have questions about stuff you want to know the answer to. And it seems like when he came back, it was really interesting. He said he walked through this dark tunnel, and there was these faces
geometric
of demons, and they started getting like the devil. And he said, I walked through the shadow of death. I shall feel no evil. And all of a sudden, these faces turned into like rainbows and smiley face. Like he faced that and feared not. And he came out with an incredible. That's all.
Joey, can you pull up Dorian Yates? I guess ayahuasca. Good luck spelling it. AHYUASCA, maybe. I'm a terrible speller.
Yeah, that's a tough one too. But it's I don't know much about it, but the way he explained it was him and Joe Rogan both had the same experience. And what he said was, when you go into that place, this
there it is,
you're
ayahuasca.
trying to extrapolate as much of that trip that you had back into reality.
Yeah, how much can you retain?
It solved everything. All the answers are there, and you're trying to take it back to reality. Was what
Soltara, that's what it's called. Right? They say the first image on the left, on the bottom.
Yeah.
Soltara. That's the name of the place.
Wow.
So go to the next that link below it, Working with the Shadow, special retreat with Dorian Yates.
Nah, that's wild.
This is it. This is what I'm talking about. I want to do ayahuasca really bad. It's pretty much the only drug that I really want to try still. But so Soltara, SOL. I don't even want to put it out there. Everyone's gonna go fucking buy it and take their fucking things. Private single suite.
Well, you know what? If you want, I mean, that would
Price for two. That's not bad. Price for two, 4,500, 22.50 each, or 20.50 each. And
if you can figure yourself out, you're in everything you ever really want to know about yourself when you got there for $4,500. What can't be worth that?
I think that's room, board, and food too.
Yeah, that's what it's saying.
Probably no flight though.
It says, I think it says transportation included.
To and from the airport. Whatever. That's a whole other conversation. But I really, I'd love to try that.
But that was, you know what? Going back one thing, two things, John. You said talking about dumbbell laterals, like that is the difference between machines. If you do a cable lateral, you get to sweep through your body, creating more of a stretch in the way your reflex arc, your Golgi tendon bodies work, and your motor units work. The more range of motion, the more stimulus you're going to get. Yeah, so there is a difference between dumbbell, and they both have value, man. That's why you do it. But if you ever look at John, the beginning of a really good pro's career, everything was heavyweight. And then you look towards the end, when once they built that size, you'll see a lot more machines being used and a lot more isolation because they already had that connection. And you'll find when you get there, you don't need nearly as many sets as you did to get there because you're so in tune. You could do 3 or 4 sets almost be like you're just blown out.
People now when they train with me, they don't understand. They're like they and maybe it's now I'm thinking about it. Maybe it's something that it might work for someone better, further along developed in the bodybuilding. However, when I train now, I'm not training really heavy at all because I'm 5'8". Like, how big am I going to get?
But you've already created a certain amount of mass that you can stimulate without the weight.
And also, my mind and muscle connection has become so good that I know for a fact, like I'm better. It's as dumb as it sounds. People don't realize bodybuilding is a sport, right? Like, I'm better at working out than most people. Same with you. Like, I'm better than working out. And it's not going to brag about. It's just experience. I've done it thousands of times. So, like, I know when I pick up that dumbbell and move it 15 times. You moving the dumbbell next to me 15 times, even if you look in the mirror and our movements look similar, you're not getting the same not getting the same, like, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's not getting the same production out of the movement I am.
You're not getting the same outcome. You're not going to get the same outcomes because I know you can't focus. I'm doing everything right to push through with my package.
It's more of a sport.
And again, John, how many times you do this when you're going for something really that's substantial, whatever it is? I used to go through a checklist. Like when you're about to go on stage, if you start getting nervous, to me, if I was about to lift 500 pounds on a bench, which I've done, I think I slept perfectly 8 hours. I ate red meat last night. I did everything I was supposed to do to deserve this lift. Like when you're about to be called next in line, you see the audience, you see all these people, you see the judges. Oh shit, this is real. I'm about to compete. Two things can happen. You can have a cortisol release and get caught up in the moment of the oh shit, I'm about to compete in front of 1,000 people in my underwear. Or nobody died at heart of me. I never missed a minute of cardio. I never missed a meal. I never didn't give them 100%. I went to bed on time. You start going through that checklist of the whys. They're about to see something they've never seen before. Well, that's true or not. That's how I thought. But it was interesting
that
how
ultimate confidence.
That confidence, man, and it's by your effort.
Yeah, I could confidence check through accomplishments. That's my favorite saying. Yes. Confidence through accomplishments. It's not cockiness. It's not like you think you're God gift to earth. Yeah, I put in the fucking work.
Yeah, man, I put in the work, and I deserve to be here. And I'm not going to be nervous. I'm going to showcase what I'm going to bring to the table. Everything I put into this. That's why sometimes when people with their routines, and we don't get judged as amateurs on our routines, but that's for you. You put all this time into that. Take a little bit more time to bask in the glory, man. Take a look when you throw your arms up and feel that, man. I think that's important.
I don't talk about myself too much because I don't normally like to do that.
Go into the next thing, the next episode with you.
The next part was the second show.
Yes.
So the second show we did together. Again, I thought I was done competing after the first time. I had won my weight class, which was my goal. I got called up for the overall, which I didn't expect. I didn't win the overall in the first show, which was disappointing because I want to win everything that I do. Yeah. I don't want to lose in a fucking. I don't want to lose the next red light.
But I don't think you took it as a loss. You took it as an experience. You got to compete for the overall already with the win under your belt.
I was playing with house money at that point.
That's right. Great analogy.
But now the second show, I had no plan on competing at all. We were in the middle of the summer 2017, and I was just getting every summer I was getting a little better shape than the rest of the year because it's it's hot. New York now is beach weather. Now I'm going on vacation, whatever it is, taking my shirt off more, I'm wearing less clothes. I want to look a little more diced. So summertime came around, and it was like say October, So it was like beginning of August again, and I was in good shape for like
Yeah,
a
it was
beach
beginning
guy.
of August because you were 6 weeks out.
Yeah, good shape for a beach guy, not like in contest shape, but I was in good shape. And I remember
You were past the beach guy.
okay, we know how our heads work. So in my head, I'm like, you look like good. You're not like anything fantastic. So we're in Worlds in Babylon. I met you up for a chest workout. I got to pull the picture that day. 'Cause I remember very distinctly. I remember what I was wearing, the pictures, everything. And I was like, Paul, there's a show in 5 weeks. And it was a show in 4 weeks in Brooklyn that you had competitors going to.
Yeah.
I
Brooklyn
believe,
Grand Prix.
who was in that one? Eric was in that one.
Tyler won this whole show. Eric,
The Voice
and
in that one.
Frankie.
You had a bunch of competitors in that one.
Yeah.
I remember
Eric,
that was
Eric
Bangtime. Eric. Shout out Eric.
Yeah, man.
He was in The Voice. Shout out
And
both
Mike
of you.
Yeah, a lot of guys.
know
in that
Mike,
show,
but
yeah.
shout
He's
out
a
Mike.
limo guy. Yeah, shout out to Mike.
Shout out to Mike. But so I remember you looked at you and I was like, "There's a show in 5 weeks." You're like, "Not the Brooklyn one, right?" I was like, "No, why?" You're like, "Okay, I got 5 guys now. You can't go in that one." I was like, "All right, well, there's another one in Jersey the next week." I'm like, "Do you think I can make it? Like, you think I have enough
Gold's
time?"
Classic.
Gold's Classic in Jersey. I'm like, "You think I got enough time?" And your calculations going off. You're like, "Pill your shit." And you're looking at me and you're like, gonna be close, but I think you could do it. I really think you
We'll
could
take
do it.
1 week at a time.
Yeah, I'm like, exactly. You said, let's start today and we'll check in next week and we'll know in a week from now if there's enough time or not, if your body starts making the changes it needs to, or it's just gonna be too close. We went a week and you're like, I think you can do it. We went 2 weeks, like it's looking good. 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we went down, got to the show, and I remember going to that show the same way. Even though it was only a 5-week prep, I was in good shape to begin with, and I nailed those 5 weeks, and I looked the best I ever did in my entire life. By far, not even close.
It's a light heavy.
Yeah, and this time we're up a weight class. So, and I was only like
Big difference between a middleweight and light heavy.
I was like 215 when you saw me. So I only had to lose 17 pounds, which
To make weight.
to normal people probably sounds like insane, but that to a bodybuilder that's nothing. Or to any athlete, anyone who wrestled, they know it's not a big deal over 5 weeks. People lose that in a day, believe it or not. People don't know that. So
I lost 22 pounds of Ricky in 1 day to make weight.
Jesus Christ. We'll get to that in a second because Ricky's a fucking freak show. Ricky is a freak show. So we show up to that thing. And I remember getting to the show, and everyone who's never been to a bodybuilding show before, there's a morning show and a night show. So everything's actually determined in the morning show because you're dehydrated as fuck from the night before. You're sucking down to make weight. So they want to get you on stage and judge you before you die, basically. Mm-hmm. So everyone goes in and gets weighed, and then you go on stage shortly after. They put you up in a lineup. The judges do their scoring. They know who won already. Mm-hmm. Then you go on break. Then you go on a couple hours in between where you go have lunch, you chill out, whatever it is. Then the second half of the day, everybody comes to watch. There's nobody in the audience really at the beginning, only coaches and whatever, and diehards. And at the nighttime, the night show is just literally a show. The winner's already been determined, but now your family and friends are there. People are cheering. There's an audience, and now they announce the winners at that point. So I show up in the morning, and everyone in the morning in the weigh-in is all covered up. Everyone's wearing hoodies. It's almost like a game. Everyone's looking around. Mm-hmm. You're sizing people up. I wonder if he's in my weight class. Jesus Christ, I hope he's a fucking heavyweight, for God's sake. You're seeing everybody, and I saw some fucking monsters. And I remember Ray was with me, and my cousin was with me, Ryan. Two of us went the night before to drive down to Jersey, and we were like, fuck, I hope that guy's not in my weight class. Hope that guy's not in my weight class. There were like 8 really scary dudes in that show. Luckily, 4 of them end up being classic physique guys. 2 black guys who end up winning their 2 classes were they both went on to be pros later next year, I found out. But sick, like ridiculous builds. And I had 2 big white dudes that I couldn't tell if they were in my class or not. Show up for the show finally. One of them's in my weight class. Kid was in incredible shape and very big. He was short but very big and a seasoned bodybuilder. Been doing this for years and years and years. I remember backstage before the show, the same thing. I really feel in my heart of hearts that I won that show on confidence, both on stage what the judges saw, because I was in the moment. I was like, this is it. Like I know what I did. And backstage, I feel like I psyched these guys out. They were looking at me backstage. I was so loose. Everyone's so nervous backstage. You're about to go on. Everyone's been doing this for months, and this all moment's about to come to a head at one second. Everyone's pacing. You could see the nerves on their face. And I was cracking jokes, talking shit, and everyone's like, what does he know that we don't know? I didn't know shit. I was an idiot. I'm just having a good time. I'm like, the work's over. Like, this is the fun part now. And we got out there. I beat that kid, and in the monster heavyweight that I went against for the overall, I ended up going against and beating him too. And he was talking some cocky shit backstage.
He was good.
He was very good. And nothing against him. He was a good guy. Backstage, He was already talking.
He had no intention on losing that day.
And he was already looking past the show.
Yes,
He was saying to everybody backstage, oh, this is just a tune-up show. I'm going to nationals, this and the third. And I was like, damn, I'm like, I guess I got no shot at this guy. I mean, he's already talking about nationals. I'm just hoping to place him, whatever. Get this one. We get out on the stage, and man, when I beat him, he was pissed.
Yeah.
He was pissed. I mean, I guess the loser's always pissed. I wouldn't have been only because I know that it is what it is at that point. I'm not going to like say something on stage, and he's like muttering under his breath. And I'm just sitting there holding my front relaxed pose, smiling ear to ear, just making it worse for him. But that whole thing is like, when that moment comes, it's how do you respond to pressure? Yeah. Are you going to fold or do you shine? Some people do better under the big lights. And
not most,
some people crumble.
do.
Some people crumble.
Most.
And it's amazing because that's a big aspect that people don't understand. The posing is a whole animal people don't understand. And I'm not a great poser. Don't get me wrong.
But you know how to pose. You know how to. It's not your strength, but you know how to pose your body confidently and correctly. You present your best package with. You put enough time looking in the mirror, spend the time knowing the angles that you
every single time we trained from the entire prep, when it was over, we'd say, okay, let's pose for 10 minutes.
Yeah. And
we go in the posing room, I go through all the mandatories. And people, when you see people on stage, even if you've seen pictures, all you see is the finished result. You see a still frame. You don't realize how hard that is. That is
you know what?
Tough.
I'm going to say something to put it all in perspective, because people don't think that posing is a big part of it. But
impossibly hard.
It's the difference. I just lost a show with one of my best guys I've ever trained, a good friend of mine and stuff. And he learned his lesson from us. I have no problem sharing this. But he lost because he wasn't practicing.
Just now?
Nick lost the universe, and he's an animal because of that loss. But he lost because he
looks like since then he's in a different gear. I love to see.
I love to. Listen, I just trained with him today. I just trained with today. The guy's on a different stratosphere. I love to see it,
'cause everyone.
And when you see this kid, honestly, I'll say this now. It's a bold statement, but just watch what this kid's capable at 100%, man.
I mean, everyone's known that for years. Nick's got. I mean, I went to high school with Nick.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know him, yeah.
Yeah, he was a wrestler at my school, and I remember one time before basketball, they were the same season, basketball and wrestling, being in the gym and watching him wrestle before my basketball game and seeing him on top of somebody, and his back was at that point striating, and he was 16 years old. Yeah. So everyone knew he had freak genetics. He's been bodybuilding for a while. Always had the craziest build.
He's tough.
His bone structure, his waist like this, his lats flare out like here. It's fucking nuts. He's got black guy genetics and a white dude. Like he's built like a black guy, and he's just sick fucking build. And the problem has always been he had that flex a little bit. He was lazy. He comes down to the show and he's a little bit.
And every time I blame myself for the loss. A lot of people don't think that's really accurate, but I do, because every time it comes, I go pose like you never once told me I gotta go, I gotta meet so and so, I got a business, okay, you took the time out, we went through your poses, we did your 4 quarter turns, your 7 mandatories, and then I assessed it. Okay, every single time. When Nick was always, he had 3 poses, front double, or I gotta get out of here. And instead of saying, hey, we doing the universe? Instead of saying, are we doing the universe or not? I don't give a fuck what you gotta go.
And he came in 3rd, right?
He was dead center, and he's clearly better than everybody else in this.
But he came in 3rd.
He did come in 3rd.
And the top 2 get a pro card.
Correct.
So he was
and the best thing that happened is he didn't get it. One place off from getting a pro card. And honestly, I still think
you're right. It might be best thing, because now the fire's under his ass.
Oh,
and
man.
I've been just seeing it. I mean, obviously, I'm trying to train with Nick. We've been talking back and forth about it. I want to get in the gym with him just because
he's fired
I love
up,
when people are post-show rebound. They're strong as gods, and then right now he just looks like he's locked in. So I want to get a lift with him in. Nick, let's get a fucking lift in this week.
Yeah, man. It's worth it. Watching this, it's worth it.
But if he would have won that show based on the effort,
it would have been the worst thing that could have happened.
He might have gone forward thinking I can get away with this forever. And at the pro level, that's never going to work.
He gets smoked.
Yeah. So maybe it's the best thing that happens. So maybe he realizes now, listen, I can't just show up on game day and make up for it. I got to put in for it the whole 12 weeks, whatever it is. And I hope he goes and just crushes it.
You know what? Sometimes from the best deal you make is the one you don't make. Sometimes that loss is the best thing ever happened to you. Is that loss? Like if you handle it the right way, if you reflect, if you own really your actions. Nick lost because Steve Weinberg, I went to him, Steve, what'd you think? He's like, I gave you dead center. We gave you center. Gave you the center. We took it from you, because when he turned around, he started fading. He couldn't hold his poses so bad that he couldn't lean back. When Nick leans back, that's when all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, because
his lower back starts popping. He leaned back and nothing happened. As a matter of fact, I was screaming. I lost my voice. Lean back. And he didn't do it, and he lost. And next thing you know, they turned around to the pose. They moved him out of the center, and I was like,
"That's heartbreaking."
Oh man, dude, he just lost. I'm like, and then a lot of people trying to make me feel better, saying, "Oh, they might have been moving to compare 2nd or 3rd to see who gets a 2nd pro card." I'm like, "No, he lost."
Fuck.
They moved him out of the center, but Nick took it on the chin like a champ, and he's been fired up. But again, it was just that mindset.
I hope he stays on it. And I hope he gets and crushes the 2021 show. It's harder now because of COVID. There's less shows. Even training in the gym is harder.
Man. That's why we're down
closed.
to Carolina to compete, man.
Yeah,
and that's another thing. Just talk about what that means. Like, one of my my favorite guys to train with is Ricky. 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 Corey Palmer's just an amazing guy, bodybuilder / friend. However, freak in nature.
We'll put up
Ricky's afraid to pose. Ricky's afraid to fly. Ricky's Ricky's Jamaican. He's really like, what you see is what you get. He's all emotion. He loves it, but he's afraid to fly. So he really wasn't, we didn't know this, but he wasn't accurate on his water consumption. So when I started water loading him, on top of going to see Steve, was the first day Bev's opened with COVID. First day, so Steve wasn't in the best of moods, just so to speak. We got to see Steve, and Steve looked at him. He's like, he's really flat, but you look good. Steve was, and it's just, Ricky, everyone was telling how good he looks. It freaked him out a little bit. Yeah, and then the next day, you're getting on the plane.
Steve judge that show?
No, Steve wasn't there. Steve didn't go down for that show. Steve did not judge that show. So it was, I think Tyler was, and some of the other, I believe some of the
Southeast guys, whatever it is. Judges.
So Ricky, he won the show straight first, but when I got there, he's like, he gained from the flight, from the nerves, from the water. He on Sunday he was 215. He got to South Carolina on Tuesday. He was 234 pounds. I walked in. I looked at a linebacker. I'm like, what? First thing I did, I looked at him. We weighed in. I'm like, all right. I took off. They're like, Coach, where are you?
What was the weigh-in?
The next day.
No, what was the weight you had to hit?
212. And 234. So I went, I bought a bottle of wine. Ricky doesn't drink. I walked, I bought a bottle of wine, one for me to relax me. I just drove through the night with Jared. Thank you, Jared, for driving me down there safely through the night. Chad, who is an absolute animal, did every single thing that happened. So what I did, I looked at him, and basically Ricky, we had a pep talk that was, the reality of what's going on.
Right?
Oh, fuck you. Fuck yeah, Ricky. Yeah. I was like, Ricky, you're the best guy ever played on any team, right? Yeah, coach. Oh, yeah, what makes you feel, and then long story short, it's like, you guys, you got to burn some calories. You got to go out. This is the last thing. Normally, last 2 days, you want to rest, right? You want to keep your legs up, rest, and just pose. So that obviously couldn't happen. I made Ricky drink 2 glasses of wine because I knew it was all nerves. Everything that happened was nerves. It was just nerves. His nerves made him hold, his cortisol levels raised, and he held so much water. The alcohol relaxed him.
People don't realize that stress hormone, cortisol, is a motherfucker.
It's motherfucker, man.
People don't understand. Like, I remember listening to Phil Heath back in the day. He was saying that his wife knew to not bust his balls or aggravate him between in prep because that cortisol can fuck up everything.
Absolutely, it's fight or flight. Your body goes into fight mode and it releases your body's natural anti-inflammatory as water. So the subcutaneous level between the muscle and the skin holds a sheen of water that blurs all your muscle. For everybody else who cares, but for a bodybuilder at 0% body fat, when you do that, it creates a mask,
a filmy little thing over your muscles.
Well, that's the difference of everything. Cloudy. It's filmy. It's like a little filmy. That's, in a bodybuilder's world, it's a difference of just minute.
That's everything. The last part, you put all that work in, and the last part before a show is the dry out.
So we go down there. So now Chad,
that's more than a dry out.
Oh God,
that's a ring out.
So they're working, and he came back, and now Chad is sweating his ass off. Now I went to get some ice cream to soothe my nerves because I was a mess, seriously. And I see Ricky and Chad walking through Charleston, Carolina, like someone just stole their daughter, and I'm gonna fucking kill you when I find you. So here these 2 guys looking like, and then on every 5 minutes they had to stop and do 20. They had to do 20 push-ups and 40 jumping jacks just to burn calories. So here these guys, no matter where they were at 5, they were dropping right there, and people like, who the fuck? What's going on?
Rocky?
It was crazy.
Or Apollo, I
guess.
So
I come back, and now but Chad comes back sweating, rings of sweat, sweating like just a barbarian in the southern heat, and Ricky, nothing, man. I weighed him, nothing. I'm like, Ricky, what? When you played football, were you nervous before games? Yeah. When did you stop getting nervous? As soon as I hit somebody, coach. Give me that 20-pound medicine ball. I give him the 20. Now slam it into the fucking ground till you break the fucking ball, break the floor. Ba-boom. Ba-boom 10 times. Ricky shook the house. All of a sudden, just a little bit of a different demeanor. You could feel that release. He went out, he came back, he was fucking soaked. He dropped 5 pounds from that walk. And then and then I put him in an Epsom salt bath, for an hour, 2 bags of Epsom salt. I found a sauna in some lady's home, a personal home in a pandemic with fucking 3 goons. The lady actually took us in. And finally, long story short, the next day, I couldn't give him a diuretic then, because if I started the diuretics then,
he'd fucking
flat. He'd look at potato chip, just a bag of shit that day. So
And
used
Lucky,
to say-
even with that though, Lucky is such a freak because most people the day before, if they're doing all that kind of exercise,
Actually,
the day
they'd be
before,
done.
Yeah, to be fucked.
Done. He got out of the sauna the last time. Right out of the sauna, we went right to weigh-in with nothing, no water, no, right to the weigh-in. Ricky peeled his shit off and looked like G.I. Joe.
Yeah, he's
Like, what the, like, to go through all that, I did the 24 hours of vigorous training to get the water out without diuretics and stuff. And when I tell you, Ricky smoked his class.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's
Smoked this
unreal.
guy, yeah.
He was just a pro waiting to happen.
Which is really cool, honestly. That was a test. That was the most I've ever wanted to be tested. Then one guy's like, oh, man, I got here. I couldn't lose the last 3 pounds. I'm like, fuck, how about you eat my fucking sneaker? I tell you to shit it out. That's what I had to go through in the last 24 hours.
22 pounds in a fucking day.
And look, and win was straight first.
It's not even like you just, that's the thing about people don't realize the difference between weighing in for bodybuilding and other shit. Like, you still have to look good.
Yeah.
Like, you have to, after all this, you're being judged 100% on the way you look.
And he practiced his posing so much that they tried taking it from him. I think they had a guy they really liked. He knew everybody. He was saying hi to everybody. Not that, that matters, but let's call it what it is, and he was, the guy was good. And they put that guy next to Ricky last, just like the guy that took Nick's spot. Nick faded, and it was easy to take it from him. He faded. He stood there like a sword. Matter of fact, this was fucking awesome. This was awesome. And here's how Nick lost too. Sorry, Nick, but it is what it is. Guy threw up his arm and hit his arms, and Nick put his arms down. He didn't go in front of him. He didn't nudge the guy. He kind of quit. Kind of on stage, this wasn't there, man. This wasn't his time.
We got a special guest here.
He wasn't. There you go. This guy would have won the overall. So then Ricky.
Duke's first appearance on the show.
The guy nudged
Duke, go in your bed.
Ricky. The guy nudged Ricky a little bit. And Ricky then started talking shit. I think he said, backed up a bicep. Oh, yeah, guys, don't even worry, but don't even bother, guys. They're all looking at me anyway. Rick hits a shot, and he goes, abdominal and thigh. He goes, oh, this is my shot too, guys. Forget about it. Just look, everyone look over here. Ricky started getting fucking, like,
I love it.
Now here's this guy looking like that, talking like that. Guys, I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for this shot. Here we go. Yeah, that's right. This is me too, guys.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. This is mine too.
Next to me for this
it was
shot.
fucking awesome. It was awesome, man.
Ricky's so fucking freaky looking. Ricky actually reminds me of Flex in his build.
Yeah,
like he's that super
crazy
round,
but the detail. It looks like someone took an X-Acto knife and carved his rectus femoris through it. He's a talented guy, man. He's got a great work ethic and a bright future.
Yeah, he's just getting started, really. Like,
He
it's
is.
only been
He's
like
young.
2 years of him
Yeah.
actually training like this.
Yeah, I mean, honestly. And here's something else, too. Sometimes Ricky lost the overall. Whatever, you can say it was controversial. Maybe the guy deserved it. But the loss itself, I'm glad he lost. I'm glad he didn't get that, because I made him really hungry. When you get cold and you're not the last guy, you get that feeling. That's motivating. You get too much handed to you. I think it takes away a little bit of the hunger. You start drinking your own Kool-Aid a little bit. Not that Ricky's that guy, but sometimes losing, even though you won your show, you lost the overall, won your show, but that loss, when you go into the next level, if you're a goal, John, which it was, yeah,
I still had to do so. I still had
it leaves something
unchecked.
saying. I won, but I didn't take it all. So depending on where you're at and what bodybuilding means to you and where you're going with it, it definitely leaves more fuel in the fire. I don't ever want to be a guy where my name's not called out last.
No, I don't want to lose in fucking Monopoly. Never mind in front of 1,000 people in my underwear.
Yeah, so I think that there's so much to learn from the sport. But, another thing, too, that's pretty wild. We talked about, once I started, stepping away and I started something, because at the time I had kids.
Oh, and before you get into that, because people don't know. I'm surprised people don't know that. I mean, I'm sure everyone in the bodybuilding world knows, but like I put up a picture of you today from a competition shot of you, and my dad was like, "Was that Paul in that shot?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Holy shit!" I didn't know he could compete like that. I'm like, Paul was no fucking joke, bro. Are you kidding me? Yeah. And the best story I've heard today, anyone who's a bodybuilding, fan at all knows who Kai Green is.
Oh, don't go there with that one. Don't go there with that one. Don't even go. Yeah, I'll tell you why. Don't go.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Anyways, Paul was a no joke competitor, and at the end of the day, he's gotten. I mean, if you see Paul's old contest photos, you know exactly why he is as good as he is at training, because he knows what it's really like. He's been there. But talk a little bit about your competition days.
Well, I mean, I got lucky because, and every time I competed, I looked for someone else, and I got lucky. I started training with Rob Russo. My time, I always thought that getting stronger is better. I would train as heavy as I could with legs, heavy fives, heavy sixes, and my, I was strong, but my knees got sore, man. And I started training with Rob Russo, who was probably the most dedicated guy. I've trained with a lot of guys, but this guy's dedication, his consistency, and his work ethic, consistency over time. But Rob trained at 90%, never 100. Rob could always train a little bit more, but he was more of a Haney than a Yates, but his legs were just fucking enormous. And my legs started growing. Everything was 15s, heavy, but 15s, heavy, but 15s. And the hypertrophy that started happening was amazing. Like
More bodybuilding style than
and that's when
powerlifting.
I started, I had a hard time, man, making weight for my last show. It was brutal. I remember doing 1999. I won the show and I won the overall, and but 2 weeks out, I mean, I was losing my mind, man. I remember
But if you were competing under, God bless you, Duke. If you were competing under today's circumstances, people don't understand how different the sport is now compared to when you competed in the 80s and 90s. There were only a couple of pro cards given out for the entire year.
At the Nationals, I could have told you next year's top 5 minutes after the show was over. I mean, if Mike Matarazzo, and I could tell you next year it was going to be, the top 5, the next 4 guys who were next in line. They didn't quit. They didn't walk away. It was the next 4.
And got better.
Dennis Newman. It was Craig Titus. It was Tom Prince. It was, it was right up the line. It was, Flex Wheel, like Kevin Levrone. It was only one guy turned pro and moved on. And then one guy won the overall at the USA's. That's it.
So it was 2 cards for the whole year?
That's it. For the heavyweight, because there wasn't even a super heavyweight then. It was heavyweight class. Anything over 225, that's it. That was a pro card.
Did you get pro cards for like a light heavy or middleweight?
You did, but your career's over. There was no 212. There's no 202.
Oh, yeah.
So basically,
once you were a pro, nothing you could do.
What are you going to do?
But you could have got a pro card.
You could have got a pro card. And you got your resignation paper in the same cover.
So was there 5 weight classes, you'd say?
It was bantamweight, which bantamweight goes up to 142, lightweight 142 to 154 and a quarter, middleweight 154 to 176. Light heavy 176 to 198, and then
heavyweight.
The heavyweight, man, was
that
anything
5?
above that. Yeah,
That's
that's
5.
it. Then they created the super heavyweight division over 225.
So even let's include that in. So that's 6 cards, and that's it.
That's it.
So you got 6 pro cards a year, and then 1 overall. So 7 pro cards a year.
Yeah.
So imagine a sport where only 7 people in the entire country, I'm getting that correctly, turn pro a year. Compared to today, 2020, these shows.
They turn out top 2 in every class.
I've seen, first and second place in each class get a pro card, and there's multiple divisions. I mean, sometimes I saw a thing like a few weeks ago. It was in one show, like 30 pro cards given out.
Yeah,
in one show.
The Universe gave out 100.
100?
100, I believe. I'm pretty. You can quote me on that. 100 pro cards between all the different divisions in one day. Or 2 days. It's a 2-day show, but bikini, figure, classic.
Yeah, it's a different sport now.
It's a different sport. And I remember, it's funny because I bet Francis and Steve Weinberg were my partners, and I remember, if someone came in, they were a pro. Usually back then, pros didn't pay for a gym membership or a guest pass, and pros didn't pay to get into a show. But then, when we took over, being a pro meant something different. Like there's so many pros now, you never know a pro. And back then, it's like unless it was somebody really like, holy shit, this person's at the show, like everyone pays. But I remember looking at Bebby would charge them or not. Like, it's not like what it was. Everyone got to pay. But promoters, and there's so many different pros. So the sport changed a lot. Like then there's different divisions. I mean, the men's. I remember when bikini was introduced, there was only one bikini competitor, one, in my show, and I thought it was like, wow, this is crazy. It's a crazy division. And then classic physique, men's physique, it went nuts. So, but I mean, sport definitely changed a lot. There's a lot more pro cards given. I mean, not to dilute it on any aspect, but it was different in the 90s because I think you knew the next top 5 guys right away because there was no other way for them to go. They weren't going anywhere, man. Dennis Newman, you look at Flex Wheel, Chris Cormier. It was like the next guy, Paul DeMayo. Look how long it took Paul DeMayo to turn pro. Quadzilla, the guy was a fucking freak at the USA's. The best was, I think, 1991 or 90 Nationals. Had Matt Mendenhall, Ronnie Coleman took 4th. Paul DeMayo took 4th. He took 4th. Matt Mendenhall. I mean, these guys.
That's like Michael Jordan coming in 4th.
Yeah,
place. He's the all-time greatest bodybuilder by leaps and bounds.
It was crazy looking at these guys, and it was an amateur show. What the fuck? You look at an amateur. These guys were incredible.
It's crazy. Bodybuilding's so weird how, and myself included, even though I worked out for a long time, I wasn't as into bodybuilding until I was in my mid-20s. And it's fascinating to see people's just misconceptions about the sport and lack of respect for it, really. Honestly, I don't think it gets the respect it's due because it's super fucking hard, it's super nuanced, super detailed, technical, and it takes an enormous amount of work over many, many, many years. People don't look at it differently than other sports for whatever reason, but it's like you can't just pick up a basketball and make it to the NBA. And it's the same thing with training. I mean, obviously now with these new divisions, the guys have only trained a couple of years, it can maybe become like a physique pro, whatever it is. But to win at nationals at bodybuilding, I mean, if you saw the
It's such a
fourth place,
commitment.
if you saw the seventh place guy at nationals on the beach, you'd be like, "That's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life." When he's in show shape, you'd be like, "That's a freak of nature."
Look at Dave. Look at Dave Palumbo. Never turned pro back then, and look at this. Like
Yeah, he would have been pro now, 100%.
it was very different. But there's a point when you look at it. For me, it was time to walk away. When I visualized, I got taught from the Russian guys that were, visualization was huge. Visualization was everything. And I could visualize so much, it became my reality. And I remember it was my last year, it was 2004, it was the Atlantics. I was going to do that, then do the USAs. And I won the Atlantic States. And I remember when they held my hand up, I felt nothing. I was like, wow, man, I don't feel anything. There was no euphoria. There's no pride. There was no nothing. It's just nothing. I visualized being there so much. And the week before, a friend of mine who did a natural show in Poughkeepsie and Terrytown, whatever, and I went up there. And when he won, he never did anything. He's been training for years, competed a million times. I helped him, and he actually won from never placing to winning the show. And I remember what he said. I won't give his name. He's like, I'll never repeat this, but, don't ever tell my wife. But this is the best moment of my life right now.
Wow.
And I remember or probably crying, like tearing up, like it meant so much to me to help somebody else feel that. And then the next week I won, I felt nothing. I just like, And I remember, my wife was with me and, and I left at Tribeca and I walked out of the room for the night. And I was like 5 a.m. I'm walking the streets of Manhattan. I'm like, I'm done. This is it. I don't see the point in doing this
Your
anymore.
calling at that point became to help other people.
Yeah, it was to help other people. And I would also started a company called Kid Fitness that it was really selfish. I was making money from bodybuilding. And I didn't think I ever would as the pro. If I ever turned pro, I don't think I would have been that good where I would have been like making money, supporting my family.
Yeah, very few people make real money on
so you had to be
bodybuilding.
realistic. If I do this, I'm being selfish. I'm being narcissistic. I'm going to do this for my own because I'd love to compete. I'd love, who doesn't? But the amount of time I told my kids, I'm tired. Just give me the amount of times I could have made more money. And now I started a company called Kid Fitness. It was an award-winning television show that got to the level where I was partners with Stan Lee, who created... What it was when I had my own kids, I saw them watching too much TV. I'm like, guys, let's get outside. Like TV and me as a kid didn't match. My kids are watching TV and I'm like, I can't, it's not sitting right. Childhood obesity is through the roof. So I created a show where animals mimicked exercise. A kangaroo would do squats, a butterfly did jumping jacks. The monkey did push-up. It was a show that the kids would mimic animals thinking it was fun, but meanwhile they were exercising.
It's genius.
I thought so, but whatever. So we get into this, and now I did this show.
How the hell did you link up with Stan Lee?
Well, because I did it through Pro Image. I created a video, and then I created a television show. They loved it so much that the station WQED out of Pittsburgh that launched Mr. Rogers, the guy just happened to be at the studio. He was like, this is amazing. This what a great idea. Why don't you get some directors and this, that? They saw the video, and I'll put it on WQED. And I'm like, okay. And I looked at my partner. I had a partner who was really, really into it, and we spent a lot of money creating these episodes and doing screencasts and getting actors and learning the entertainment field wasn't my field, but now I'm learning the costumes and everything, how much went into animation.
What was it called?
Kid Fitness. If you Google Kid Fitness Stan Lee, it'll pop up. Kid Fitness Stan Lee. So what happened was I used animals. Long story short, season 2, we won a lot of awards. We did some cool shit. But
How was Stan Lee? How was he?
Well, I'll tell you something. Stan Lee, I got a call, from Stan Lee's agent, Gil Champion, reached out to us and he said, "Hey, I want to meet you guys out in Hollywood, Rodeo Drive in Santa Monica, the real deal."
Yeah.
But I'm not a comic guy. I didn't know who he was, to be honest with you. Sorry, Stan.
Stan was the comic book.
He created the Hulk, Spider-Man.
Legend. I mean,
legend.
Every one of
he's
those
Marvel
characters.
Comics. Marvel Comics is Stan Lee. Period.
Those are his visions.
He's the most talented. There he is. He's the most talented, creator probably in that there was
Ever, yeah.
Which is cool because I get my daughter's going into animation. I get to tell her how he thought about character development and subplots within the characters because that's what she does now in college. But anyhow, so
Is he still alive?
No, he died. He died. So when he died, but before,
shit.
so when I went out there, I remember we were sitting
Recently?
down in the office probably 2 years ago.
I was gonna say because he was in some of those movies.
He's every one of them. We talked about doing a cameo. We're gonna make a Kid Fitness movie in Paul, and we're gonna do a cameo together. We had some cool talks.
Jesus Christ.
So anyhow, I go out there. It's like Paul, and I'm looking at this guy walking to his office. There's a big picture, life-size picture of the Hulk, and Spider-Man, him with presidents and all this. I'm like, I felt overwhelmed a little bit. I'm sitting in this office with I'm like in California now. It hit me like, what
This guy's big deal.
What am I doing here? Like, so this guy calls me and he's like, hey, boy, I like what you did. I really like it, but you missed just a little bit. You did a great concept with your exercise concept, but you missed what kids really identify to, and it's the weakness in the characters. They identify to that flaw that they can see themselves into, and he got it into a deep thing, and then he goes, I did something like this with Ike, and when I'm like, whoa, when you say Ike, do you mean President Eisenhower? He's like, yeah. I go, you see, that's the difference between me and you. I don't call Ike, the president, my buddies. What the fuck am I doing here? And he's just like, he started laughing. He goes, well, the reality is, Disney really bought me, and they own everything I do. And they all, I like this concept. I'd like to elaborate on this, but let's do it through a licensing arrangement where you have a licensing arrangement through Kid Fitness, 50-50 split. You'll have Disney take you out, buy you out, and this way I circumvent my contract basically through you. Done. And it was weird because if you Google this, Kid Fitness Stan Lee, he talks about all the characters. He developed this power girl Amy, this hot blonde that when she gets pissed off, she throws you through a fucking wall. Rollerball Raoul was a heavy Chinese guy that turned into a wrecking ball, but he was heavy. But if he lost too much weight, he lost his superpowers. Every single character had a subplot. And all these characters were superheroes that this is their kids. And Kid Fitness was the guy that trained the superheroes' kids. And all the villains that he arrested and put away were all trying to infiltrate it and get to. And I'm like, holy shit, like you just took my little animals and turned into this like mecca. I'm like, This is awesome. So he invited me out to his Lifetime Achievement Award. I sat with him as, and he talked about Kid Fitness at his Lifetime Achievement Award. Like my coolest concept. And he even talks about, is this Kid Fitness and what I'm going to be doing. And what happened was I had so many wheels in motion. It cost me millions to do this with my partners and everything. And we actually got a very large grant through the health department where I put these Kid Fitness Fun Fitness breaks, 8 minutes of activity to give the schools enough activity minutes to where they get the funding from the school because they were cutting back on gym classes. So I put them in, my Fun Fitness breaks were in every single classroom in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, Jamaica, all the 5 boroughs.
We could use that right now. Can we do a reboot?
Yeah. Dude, if I show you that, you're going to see how cool. My daughter looked at it and she was like, Dad, this is good stuff.
And in 2020, it's needed even more.
Even more.
Like kids now even more sedentary of a lifestyle with the video games and Instagram. Like no one does shit.
You know what? And I'm gonna tell you something. Everybody here can learn from, and I'll never forget it. So now we're in a meeting. Now we're pitching the concept to Disney.
With Stan Lee.
Disney. With Stan Lee. One take Stan. So I come in there. I'm talking about I'm the world's best trainer. Fitness has been my life. I've been a bodybuilder, promoter, a gym owner. I taught people how to become trained. This is my life. This is what I do. And Stan, had his own version of it. So I got them all fired up and excited about what fitness, what it did to me, how it changed my life, and how I'm going to change the world of childhood abuse. Stan Lee takes over, and we're in, talking to this. It was a meeting room probably from here to Lindenhurst of a table with lawyers. And this one little Urkley guy said something that pissed Stan off. And I really can't remember what it was, but it wasn't a slap in the face, but it was condescending. I remember just getting a nudge under the table, And at this time, I didn't get that grant. The grant just came through, but I wasn't sure on how much for the health department that bailed me out of all the debt I had to make the company. So he hits me under the table, and he's just like, and I'm like, he stands up, gentlemen, would you excuse us? He always quoted Shakespeare. Quoted a Shakespeare line that he'll be back in a minute, before Arnold, I'll be back. He said something much more like,
poetic.
Yeah, poetic. We walk out, and I was about to say something in the elevator. He went like this, like these walls have ears. And I'm like, now I'm sweating. I'm like, I'm just watching my life go down the toilet. This meeting, we just pissed these guys off. The CEO did these. And I walk outside and he's just, I'm looking at him. He puts his arm around. He's like, boy, you ever realize why you were born? And I'm like, yeah, to be in that meeting we just walked out of. I'm like, Stan, man, you fucking killing me. You're killing me right now. Like, he's like, no. That's just, it started going sideways with where he was going with that. And, but you'll figure it out, Paul, And I had Jack Lane on my show too, kind of say the same thing, which is cool. But then we walked back into the meeting. The moral to this whole thing is I'm scared shit. I thought all their briefcases would be packed. They'd be, they're walking out and just not even say goodbye to us for how insulting it was.
Yeah,
we just waste their time.
Yeah.
Instead, Stanley had no sweat doing it. I come back and all of them stood up. They stood up. They put their tail. Gentlemen, is everything okay? Sure, we're fine, as we were saying. And I was just like, holy shit. You can't play sports scared. You can't negotiate scared. I was scared shit. And this scan just made these guys melt like putty. It's the most powerful lesson. I told to my son, well, you can't do something scared. You have to know what you're worth. And if anyone ever tries to take it from you, man, you hold your ground.
You want to walk away.
You hold your ground to the point where you'll walk away and you'll quit before you let somebody tell you what you're worth or how it's going to go.
Fucking Stan Lee.
It's fucking amazing.
He took the whole room.
The whole fucking room. And the CEO came up there. She shook my hand. It was amazing. So how's this? So going from there, Stan was like, I can't wait to work with you on this. We pretty much, the deal was they loved it. They did their due diligence as lawyers do. And they found out how many of my fun fitness breaks were in these classrooms and you know, in some, you know, tough areas. And Disney takes over, and the liability was so great. I remember, you know, we were calling Power Entertainment, Stan and Gil Chan. And it's like, you know, I must have dialed your number 50 times. I never had the heart to press the last button. I'm like, oh, that don't sound good. And he's just like, you know, the lawyers found, you know, reason to cause, you know, a lot of liability. And it just doesn't seem like
the kids got hurt.
Yeah, one of the kids, they sue us. They sued Disney. And I mean, I and that was the last straw. I went through a lot to get to that point. I went to the finish line so many times, and the checkered flag just disappeared. Every time I got to the finish line, something else caused the checkered flag to disappear. At this point, there's so many stories I could tell you about that. They're pretty wild. But I just had Stan Lee, the master of Marvel Comics. He's done it all. This guy couldn't do it. I got to walk away from this project. I just got basically all our money was kind of, some of it was settled out, and some of it was, but if that, you know, sometimes you just got to know when to walk away.
Yeah. That's a tough pill to swallow.
It was. And still, when I look at it, the kids loved it. That's the it. When the kids watched it, they loved it.
And it was more than a money-making thing. That's
I was trying to change the world, man. And I got to the point where, did I make the $100 million that I had and get on a show where I did, you know, a little role in the movie, you know, like with Stan Lee, which we were planning on doing? No, but in a weird way, I got to speak with Jack LaLanne, train with Jack LaLanne, the godfather of fitness, and have an amazing experience where he actually in front of live television said, you know, Paul, when I die, I'm passing the torch to you. I want you to continue to pass on the fitness world, what it means. You know, that was powerful. I watched my parents cry with 90 years old and see this. Cool. To talk to my daughter, who's now an animator at School of Visual Arts as a freshman in college, who does what she does.
She's in college already?
Yeah, Leah's amazing. She's amazing. She's an amazing artist.
Unbelievably talented, but I can't believe she's that old already.
To talk to your daughter about, Leah, you got to be able, you have to be able to unfold truly what you feel. Don't be afraid of being judged on Instagram, because Instagram is so important to the kids, and being judged and being how the kids feel and stuff. That, Leah, if you ever want to be great, you got to be able to express yourself 100%. 100% express your deepest, darkest thoughts, because those are the things that are going to separate you from everybody else that just scratches the surface. That because they're afraid of getting judged, they're afraid it won't be liked, because she's afraid of really saying how she feels. Because
she's a bit of an introvert. Yeah. But she's a wonderful girl.
Wonderful girl, and extraordinarily talented and driven, like I've never seen. Insane. She's more, So to be able to talk to you, to me, I never got that payout, but be able to talk to her, and the conversation went far past this, but it was pretty deep to tell your kid that, listen, I was partners with the greatest mind the world's ever known in your world.
Yeah.
And this is his thoughts. This is what a subplot means. This is what character development means. And this, it changed our relationship.
You're able to connect with her in a different way.
Oh, man. I was just a dad that was great at fit. And this is at the highest level. This is what her world is. So that was a wild, you didn't make any money off it, but what's rich, man? The best feeling in the world or the most money? I'll take that feeling I had with my daughter over.
Yeah, pass that knowledge to your daughter.
Yeah, man.
That's amazing.
Isn't it cool?
That is an amazing story. I wonder, I mean, it's so true though, like that's so necessary. I always look at I watch like old movies, and you see what phys ed class was in the 70s in school. Like it was actually working. It was actually exercising. Compared to now, it's like flag football, and if you don't want to participate, you sit in the bleachers. And
it's a whole different world. I remember the Club 20. Every day we had to run 3 laps. At the end of the year, you ran 20 miles, and you had Club 30. If you ran 4 laps, not 3, you made 30 miles at the end of the year. And there's Mr. Schumacher. I still remember my 7th grade teacher. He made you run a mile every fucking gym class, no matter what. And the guy did it. We did it with us.
It's important. Everyone thinks that,
and leading by an example, John, is so important, man.
Obviously, there's vain aspects to working out and being in shape, but it's your fucking body. You only get one, and your physical health and your mental health are directly correlated. And there's some insane stat. I know I'm going to misquote it because my memory's shot, but it's something like 70% of the diseases in America come from lifestyle choices. They're from sedentary lifestyle, poor eating, abusing the body with alcohol, fast food, whatever it is. But I mean, that's all personal choices you're making to put yourself either in a fucking hospital bed or be healthy, and as a byproduct, look good. It just seems like a no brainer. Just that we're so lazy as a culture now, and we excuse. It's like if you listen, I'm not for putting people down, and I'll never ridicule someone for the way they look. But at the same time, I'm not here to champion heavy people. Like, it's considered fat shaming now. Like, it's not. We're glorifying unhealthy bodies now. Like, we have, and I'm sure she's a wonderful singer or whatnot. And what the hell is the big fat lady now? I'm sorry, I say her wrong. I apologize. I take that back. I'm not even gonna say her name now because I fucked it up. But you're glorifying people on billboards and stuff, and let's saying that they should be okay with the way they look. I'm not saying look in the mirror and hate yourself, start pulling the trigger and tell you eating disorder.
No, but take ownership.
Yes, it's 100% in your control. There's very, very, very few people.
And how many times, John, do you see someone that's really heavy? They go up, oh, you look great. No, you don't.
Yeah,
no, you don't. It's a shame. And it is a shame because it affects. Because I've worked with enough people. Want to hear something from the
diabetes
mindset?
Isn't funny. Heart disease isn't funny.
Listen, want to hear something really interesting? I'm coming from a client of mine that lost 100 pounds. I had 10 people in my career lose 100 pounds.
Wow.
But one of the mindsets was very interesting. He goes, food's an addiction. He goes, nobody ever stopped me if I walked into the Chinese place, then the pizza place, then 7-Eleven, and then I went to the ice cream place. No one ever stopped me and said, hey, fat guy, no, I'm not serving you. You go into a bar and you're all fucked up, they're going to cut you off. Hey, buddy, you had enough. They don't care. But you walk in, just because you're 300 pounds, 200 pounds overweight, they're not going to say, I'm not going to, buddy, you really need this. You really need this ice cream.
That's what I'm saying, but everybody knows. So like if you're a pill addict, you can walk in somewhere, no one's going to know. But if you're 100 pounds overweight, I know you have a problem with food. And I know by looking at you're unhealthy.
Yeah, they're still going to serve you.
There's no way to be healthy at that size. And it's more
or feel good. How do you feel when you get on an airplane? You got to buy the 2 seats because you can't have anybody sit next to you. There's so many times where your being gets fucked with.
I had a guy call me a few weeks ago. So I started the online coaching program because I got to the point right now where I'm like, I'm probably doing helping 20 to 30 people with training, diet, supplementation, whatever it is. I get calls.
And what's your best? Not to interrupt, but what's your best to date? Like, what's your best? Like, fuck, man, like you feel good about when when they get that call and you really made a difference.
I've had a lot of them that people are just like, I make small, like, I don't want to get too into it with people because, no, I do, that's a lie, but I don't have time to get into it with everybody if I'm not making money on it. Because like I was saying, I have 20 to 30 people that I'm doing that for that don't charge. They're all just friends, family, or people that meet me on the street.
That means even more.
They see me, they just see I'm in shape by looking at me on my Instagram, and they're like, I want to get in shape. What do I do? Something as minimum as that, or up into the point of like, they get some people who are really into it to be like, I'm taking this, or I'm training back with it, whatever it is. And I'm trying to help them as much as I can. And I got to the point where I was like, I got to start monetizing this because I'm spending so much time doing it. I have a passion for it. I like it. I, like you said, like helping somebody else change their body, change their mind, change their life is very, very rewarding and beyond what I'm getting paid for it, because like I said, I wasn't getting paid for all these people. Yeah. And even what I charge now for my online coaching services, it's a fraction of what the value I bring to people's lives. But I had one person call me who actually didn't sign up. I remember his name very distinctly. I won't say it, but he called me and we spoke for 45 minutes on the phone, probably between 2 phone calls. And he told me about what he was at, what he was doing. And my biggest question always, like you said earlier, is the why. I want to get to people's root. What are they doing this for? Like, okay, like everybody wants to be in good shape. I'm sure you've wanted to get in good shape for a while. Why now? Why are you calling me? What is the reason you want to do this? And he tells me, I'm 360 pounds. I'm unhealthy. I'm unhappy. I want to make a difference in my life. I want to change what I'm doing. I want to feel good about myself. And I want to set a good example for my son. I said, it's a very noble cause. Well, what's going on with your son? And how old is he? He's 15 years old and he weighs 400 pounds.
Wow.
And I was just like, my God, that kills me. That killed me because I mean, and I don't mean to, I hope this doesn't sound wrong, but it is what it is. It's almost if the kid weighed 70 pounds, child services will be looking to take a kid away from you, right? If you're starving your kid. But why, when the kid's 250 pounds overweight, is that not child abuse? And I know some people don't know better. It's hard. I'm sure he has a slug's pace metabolism. Maybe he needs medication. Maybe there's other dietary things. I'm not looking to judge blankly. I don't know very much about the guy. I don't have a medical license to say anything more than that. But I'm saying that at some point there's neglect or abuse going there. Like whether it's intentional or not, I'm sure he loves his son. Not what I'm saying. But that kid is a time bomb. You're 400 pounds. 400 pounds at 15 years old. If he was 300 pounds, that's
criminal
a problem.
to me.
So I'm saying it's almost like it's a form of child abuse. And so I said to him, my fee is $300 a month for the online coaching and training program and weekly check-ins and 24/7 access to me. So that's writing out every meal every single day, every workout every single day, down to the rep and set, like very detailed. He said, I'd love to do that. It's just a little expensive, and plus my son needs it also. It's $600 a month. I don't know if I could swing that. I said, listen, this is what I'll do for you. And I don't do this for anybody. I don't offer this to anybody, but like, I really want to help you and your son because I said it to him, and I don't know if he took it the wrong way, but I said, it breaks my heart to imagine what your son has to deal with on a day-to-day basis, being 400 pounds at that age, going to school, other kids, looking in the mirror, just getting, and then how about just getting through the day, moving that much weight around, getting out of bed, tying your shoes. It must be god awful. I said, I'll reduce the rate to $200 a month, and I'll do you and your son for the same price. I'll throw both of you guys in for the same price. I really want, he's like, thank you so much. I get paid on Friday. I'm going to call you Friday. Friday, no call. I call him. He ignores me. I call him back. And he bailed on the whole thing. And I really, if he's analyzing it from a money standpoint, from a monetary standpoint, there's no way that $200 a month for two people to give you a full training, full diet, everything was the game changer. It's just like he's not ready to take that on.
Yeah. And that's why his son is that. They're really not ready to change.
You're teaching him. You're showing him by example. It's like, how can you tell your son to stop eating when you're eating cheeseburgers? If you're 360, 340 pounds, whatever he was, there's no mystery there. Obviously, what you guys are doing is not working.
But the fact that where your heart was, there's some people. I helped the one girl out.
I wanted so badly to call him back, say I'll do it for free.
Because you wanted to help.
I can't do this. Like I can't hear that. It's like
I know.
I have in my brain, I will hold the power and knowledge to change your son's life and save his life, and I need him to get that information.
And she's not getting it from you. No. And I'm willing to do it and help you along with it, and make you look good. I helped one time. A girl, she had cancer. I lost my cousin at 13. I was 13 at the time to lung cancer. And I'll never forget, she came to the house.
How old was she?
She was 13. I was 13.
She was 13?
Yeah, she was 13. Yeah. She came to my house and she was bald. And at that time, you don't know anything about anything. I just looked at my cousin Debbie and...
You were the same age?
Yeah, and looking at her, I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I'm thinking to myself, I hate to say it, but I don't know if I giggled or thought something like what's with that? I didn't understand what chemotherapy was really at all. And she died very shortly after that. My cousin died of that. And when I took over, and at this point, I was slightly who Paul is now. A guy that came to my gym was pretty upset, pretty broken up. My daughter's got cancer. I don't really have the money to train her. What did you just say? Yeah, my daughter has cancer. She's battling it right now, and she's really having a hard time. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll train her for free. Bring your daughter in here, and I'll change her confidence. I'll change your daughter's life. Just bring her give her one shot, one session with your daughter. She came up to the gym.
How old was she?
She was young. She was 12, 13. She was young. So I started training 3 or 4 times a week. And every time she came, she opened up a little more. She just started feeling good. And she was received. And everybody, and that for a year. I did it for a year, and then I had a lot of shit going on where I couldn't do it anymore. But for a year, I gave her, my time for a year. And she got to a place where she beat the cancer. She's still fine right now. I'll never forget, I walked into a juice bar one day, and who's behind the counter but this girl?
Jesus.
I walk in, and she's like, oh my God, Paul. And she was so cute. She had makeup on. She's a little, and I just remember what she said. She started crying. She's like, changed my life. I get choked up now. You changed my life. I gave me a shot. I gave it confidence. And the father, when I saw him one time later, he's like, how do you repay somebody that gave my daughter the confidence? Like, go out, get a job, and just interact and socialize. So that was one story. But sometimes it's never about the money, man. When you could really truly change somebody's life. I one time I asked for a testimony for Ironworks to some of my clients. Do me a favor, can you just write something on paper? And by one guy, Bob Ellis, I love this guy. He was a Marine, but was a fucking animal. He's like, Ironworks, it saves lives. And that was it. Bob Ellis. That simple statement. I'm like, why'd you write that? He's like, Kish, that's really what happened, man. You related to me, get brought, and it's still, I'm training somebody right now. She's really awesome. She probably watched this. Her name is Lauren. She had her leg amputated. And I know her father really well for years. And I said, when she gets done, she had like some type of infection, a disease in her toe, and it came up to her foot, and it was growing. They had to take a leg off.
Jesus.
They took it off. And this girl has the best attitude you'll ever fucking, and she has that phantom pain where every night she wants to scratch, like she's in so much pain. Actually, in like 2 weeks, they're taking the nerve off. They're severing the nerve that's still alive, that's killing her. But her attitude is fantastic. But I trained her. I told the father, if she gets done with that surgery, she's able to. I'll do a hard therapy, and I train her 3-4 times a week, and
That's
she
a
brings so
perspective
much
shifter,
energy.
right?
Oh, dude,
When you
man.
see someone like that, you're like, oh, what was I complaining about again?
Yeah, man. And what she brings when she comes into the gym, everyone looks and they see this prosthetic leg, and you think about, okay, and she trains her ass off, has a great attitude,
love
and
it.
everybody feeds her. Like what I donate to her was my time. What she brings to the table in energy is irreplaceable. You know what I mean? So sometimes, listen, you need money to get what you want, but money doesn't make you happy or give you that. Like my life, my family worked for the road, which I could have got a job easy. But my sister was the president of human resources. She was the person that hired you. And you know what? And that's great. But if I counted tickets or did whatever, at the end of the day, I make a decent living. I get by. I put my kid through college, bought him the first car, I have, do whatever. But I have countless stories where I get to still compete as an adult. I mean, compete at a high level with my guys. I get to help people change lives. So, my life, at the end of the day, if it ends tomorrow, it stood for something. Yeah. I didn't do something every day that I hated. I do something every day that I've never worked a day in my fucking life.
And you made an impact on a lot of people,
man.
myself included, man. Myself included.
I say it
anytime I talk about anyone with training and it gets into any more deep than a surface level conversation, I always say that you changed everything that I look at as far as training, dieting, supplements, all that shit. It's never been the same and never will be the same since I met you. And the knowledge that you have is like an encyclopedia. It's really fucking bananas. I don't think I've ever asked a question that you didn't at least know a surface level answer to, if not an extremely in-depth answer to. And the value that you bring is worth well beyond what you charge, and that's really speaks a lot to what you bring to people's lives. Because
I'll take that.
That's every business proposition you do, right? When you hire somebody, and it's a personal trainer, it's a business proposition. In any business, you want to pay and you want to get equal return for your value.
Yeah.
When you hire somebody to work for you, whenever it is, you wouldn't hire them, but otherwise it's a net negative, right? If you hire someone that gives you less value than you. When you hire Paul, when you work with Paul, when you train at Ironworks, you are getting way more value than you could ever imagine for the money you spend, and you're not cheap about it. That's what gravitates me right away. A lot of times, the trainers, like, they want to slow play you, they want to bring you in, they don't want to give you too much, think you're not going to come back, whatever it is. And you just gave me an hour of your time and broke down things to me about dieting, about training, about all this shit that I was blown away. I could not believe how much I had learned in that hour. And I'm like, if I learned that in an hour with this guy, he didn't even fucking charge me. Imagine if I'm paying him and we're training 5 days a week. This is going to be like, my brain went on a whole rabbit hole.
Because of that, and it has a lot to do with you too, because I feed off energy. I saw how intense you were. If you didn't look like you were, but I could listen. You can just send things, but because of that, you got to a story that's, you'll tell your kids one thing. I pulled my hamstring 3 weeks out. I won. You won the overall at a show with a 5-week prep in a legitimate NPC national qualifier on 5 weeks. So the experiences that we've had on that level, and you never finish the story. And very rarely do I not get to go to a show, especially with a guy as close to me as John. But however, on that day, we go upstate to a place in Newport called the Mohawk with my kids, which is sacred time to me that I couldn't go to the show. There's nothing outside of that. I would have put off my wedding probably, no sweat, to go here. But my kids in that time, I'm going. And everyone knows me. I don't really lie about this. So John, I called John. I wasn't getting much feedback, so I didn't know. And now I'm driving home from upstate. John calls me. I'm in the car. He's like, I didn't do too good. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I won the whole entire show. It's the exact words. I won the whole entire show. Like, what do you mean? You won your class? Like, no, I won the whole show. I won the overall. And I'm like, you won the overall? Like, at the end of the show, John, I just had to clarify the overall. You had everybody, all the class went? Yeah, I won the whole show. And it was like, holy shit, man. Fucking good for you, John.
It's pretty much exactly like that. You were hysterical laughing. I was hysterical laughing.
When you get really nervous, you laugh. Really nervous or happy, sometimes you laugh.
Yeah.
So I started laughing, and I was like, you won the overall, right? He's like, yeah. And you were Ray, and I just heard everyone laugh. And you're like, oh, I didn't do so good. I'm like, oh, what happened? I thought you did pretty good after pre-show. Yeah, I won the whole show. Right?
Yeah.
That's exactly how it went down.
We had a 3-hour drive home, and it was quite a fucking day. Those memories will last me
forever, man. You can't, listen, at the end of the day, you don't take your money, you take your experiences. And there's, we've had a couple of good ones on top of a million, but it's all good, man.
Yeah, bodybuilding is a hell of a sport. It's a funny sport. It's weird, and I think that the people, a lot of things get clouded and tainted, and people like to talk about people. In my opinion, other than the ignorance of it, a lot of times they want to not believe that someone's doing something so much better than them, to try to downplay it. And you always hear steroids. Like they see a picture of somebody or whatever and they say steroids, and it's like, the guys at the top of that field are all taking stuff. There's no doubt about it. But what you don't realize is that every Hollywood actor that gets in crazy shape, every person on every magazine that you look at,
taking growth hormones,
everybody on TV, they're all taking shit. They're all taking shit.
Did you see, do you remember, I mean, not to bring up something, but it's factual, it was on the news, when Sylvester Stallone, I think, got caught in Australia.
Bringing growth hormone.
Did you see how much, first of all, he's not bringing it there to sell. So the amount of growth hormone he had, and I counted the days he was down there to how many IUs he had. He was taking like 15 units a day of growth hormone.
Yep.
I did the time. He had that many bottles, and they said how much he had. I was like, it was there for like 10 days. I'm like, it's like 15 units a day. I'm like, wow. Like, and that's
all these guys, the fountain of youth. When you see people get into shape for a show, fucking Hugh Jackman, whatever, when he's about to be Wolverine, when you look at him and then all of a sudden 6 months later he's like a different person. You think he was doing push-ups? You think his muscle and fitness workout that he put out was what got him like that? Come on, bro. They're all your heroes are doing shit. Every one of those influencers on Instagram that you look at and you watch workouts, they're all on shit.
John, here's something that you can relate to. The difference between steroids, well, maybe you won't relate to it because you really weren't a big advocate of it, but the reality is, before you get on that merry-go-round, the physiological damage isn't nearly as damaging as the mental perspective. Every other drug, if you do steroids now, you're a kid. I take me, for example. Now I take steroids. Now guys start looking at me different. Oh, Paul, whoa, we look good, man. Getting respect you never had, getting girls you never could get. Doing things you never did, having a confidence and a feeling like you're the alpha male, you know? So when you stop taking them, all of a sudden it all goes away. The pump goes away. All of a sudden nobody's kind of getting that second look that you used to get when you walked into a room.
Or even worse, they could say, what happened? Or what's going on?
Happened? Oh, you lost a lot of weight. Yeah. Now, you do crack or something, you're in the corner, everyone's like, dude, look at fucking Paul. What the fuck's going on, Paul? Like, you know what I mean? It's the only drug that when you're doing, like, you're getting acknowledgement that you're Superman, literally. Now, when you stop doing it, it's hard to stop. And I think that people don't, I never really related myself to being that big guy because I felt very comfortable with my training ability. So for me, it wasn't my identity. I know a lot of guys that they relate their identity to their size.
Oh, they get biggerexic. Oh, 1000%.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad for that. I'm glad for that. Listen, when I ended the whole ride, there was a year. It was tough coming off and really stabilizing your emotions, your hormones, your everything. But you know,
people don't realize when you're taking shit too. Unlike other drugs, right? You take, I don't know, you do cocaine, you're high for 45 minutes or whatever it is. I've done cocaine, but whatever, you know what I'm talking about. Whatever drug it is, you take pills, you're high for a few hours, you're drunk, you drink for a few hours, and then you come down. It's important to remember, people who are taking it, or if you're thinking about taking it, that you're not actually in your state of mind throughout the entire process. You are technically high. You're high for months.
Yeah, John,
and you don't realize it until you come off, and then all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, this is real life. I'm not normally this charged up, this horny, this strong, this good looking.
Yeah, think about it. I know many times I've said this.
Addiction.
I look at someone and I say to them, hey, take a good look right now. They're 2 weeks. Take a good look at this, man, because this is borrowed. This is borrowed by, this isn't who you really, I know you think this is who you are, but a month from now, this isn't you. So take your pictures, do what you have to do and own this, and really own it, because this isn't you. Any drug, I don't care what, it wears off.
It's a come down.
And steroids is a drug. There's a come down, or when you come down, this isn't who you're going to be anymore. So own this, appreciate it, because it's not real.
I think that people should wait as long as possible. I think in small doses, I think in very small doses of maintenance, or even when you as a male, your hormones start to get lower every year. Testosterone starts to go down by 25. Dangerous. It starts to go down, a step down, 30, 35, 40, 45. You're getting lower and lower. It's actually healthy to take a little bit of testosterone when you get older.
Low testosterone is unhealthy.
But I think that you should wait as long as possible. Absolutely. And I remember kids when I was in high school taking steroids, and college taking steroids, and it's very, very hard to go back. Once you live like that, it's hard to go back to being because when you're on that shit, you're like a superhuman. It's hard to go back to being mortal.
But how many times, John, have I seen, because I've prepped thousands of people, a guy who's 35 now, been taking shit since 17, he's had a good looking girl, he's like, dude, I couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I mean,
your endocrine system, your testosterone, your libido is shot now because you put so much extraneous synthetic testosterone in that your endocrine system shut down. You don't have any test.
And if your dick doesn't work, what else really matters?
What matters now? You just had to embarrass yourself to the highest level. You had a good-looking girl and you couldn't do anything but, I drank too much, or say,
Yeah, all guys' excuses and a soft.
Yeah.
So anyways.
And no topic.
Yeah. I think that it's just interesting, because I know that if we're talking about bodybuilding, something that it's one of those weird, super weird things where it's like the that elephant in the room that no one talks about, right?
Yeah.
Like, and for obvious reasons, I get why you don't want to advocate it to younger kids. Some people don't want to be known as that, or a lot of people lie. Everyone's saying I'm
Taking
natty,
stuff, no,
I'm natural.
yeah.
Whatever it is, or I'm off right now. Meanwhile, they're taking small doses, they're cruising, all the bullshit, But like, it's this weird thing where it's a sport that they don't test for. They don't test for performance enhancing drugs because the sport would be not a sport without it. But everybody on stage is effectively, and it might offend some people, but a drug addict. A lot of them do it in the healthiest way possible. Like you can drink a glass of wine a night, I guess, or these people taking a lot of drugs. They look amazing, and I'm hoping that some of them are taking the smart steps and getting their levels checked and going to the doctors and getting everything done. But there's no entirely safe way to do that amount of drugs. And it's this weird thing where it's like everybody knows that everybody in that sport's on it, but no one will talk about it out loud. And it's illegal, or you can get a prescription for it. Sometimes it's legal. It's just a real strange gray area. And I think that it makes it almost does more damage not talking about it than letting it out in the open. Because then what happens is you have kids who have nobody to rely on but that same fucking big guy in the gym, and they're getting dangerous or dirty or fake drugs in the gym. They don't know how to take it. They don't know other things to do to counterbalance the other side effects that come from it and manage their estrogen levels and whatnot. And it's dangerous. Some of the things can kill you, like not like overnight, but some of them long-term damage. And then some things like insulin, if done incorrectly, could kill you in one time. So I don't mean to put fear in anybody's heart, but you shouldn't be injecting yourself with drugs without knowing somebody.
Listen to some coach that's telling you to do stuff that's...
And who the fuck is he? He's not a doctor. So it's very tough to know who to listen to. And then even make things even more complicated, for every drug and every illegal drug in the sport, there's 10 people that will tell you 10 different things about it. It's competing, and I'm talking about not just like jerk offs that are local to you in the gym, in the locker room. I'm talking about at the highest level. I watched Dave Palumbo and Milos Sarkev, who are two of the most genius people in the sport and in history, argue screaming at each other about insulin, how to take it.
Pre or post.
And saying completely different methods how to take it. So if they can't even agree, it's like, what the fuck are we doing?
They know their shit.
They're the highest level of knowledge in that field.
Correct.
So it's very scary to me. It's like, okay, well, he's telling me to do this. He's telling me to do that. What do you listen to?
And they're so rock concrete on my listen. It's just so
screaming at each
simple.
other.
Yeah.
Screaming at each other. And it just, with things like that, like growth hormone, people tell you to take it in the morning. Some say take it at night. Some take both. Some say a little bit. Some say a lot. Some say cycle. Some say don't. It's just like, what the fuck? What the fuck's going on? It's like when two experts, I always say this because especially now times when everyone points to the news or they go science, whatever, it's like, if two experts could prove everything right or wrong. So I'm saying, if two experts who know way more than you and are way more qualified than you give you contradicting advice, now what?
Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah.
You just go with the confirmation bias, everyone you like better, because now you're fucked. You're back at square one and you have no idea what's going on. And that's the thing with drugs. So it's a very touchy subject. It's a difficult subject.
Put more attention into nutrition.
I think in this whole realm of fitness, working out, training, dieting, people don't understand, how important the diet and nutrition is. Some people say it's 60%, 70%, 80% of what you actually look like.
I think it's more.
Really?
I'll tell you why. I'll never forget this. Like I said, I've been training hard since I'm 12. Hard, like professionally trained. And I remember doing my first show and training just as hard as that. My training didn't change for show. Maybe the splits changed a little bit, how I was doing things, my recovery. No, I was doing the same, man. I trained very hard and I trained a lot and I changed my diet. I weighed my food. I followed a bodybuilding diet. And I remember, 6 weeks into that, looking in the mirror at World's Gym in Babylon and honestly looking at myself, I can't believe this is me. And I'm looking at I took my shirt off. I took my buddy. I was laughing like, look, come here, look at this. And I did a front muscle.
Crazy feeling.
And I was like, look, and I couldn't believe that I was myself in the mirror. I was looking at, and it was
wish I
the only
could
thing
bottle
that
that
changed.
feeling and give it to people.
Oh, it was amazing. I was astonished. I was fucking psyched. I was everything.
Proud.
But at the end of it, and then my brain kicked in. It's like, how did I get like that? The only thing that changed was my food. I trained just as hard. So I tell that to people. You want to look good. You come to the gym. You're gonna get in shape. You're gonna be able to run faster, lift more. You're gonna respond to this type of trauma, which is you're gonna get faster, better, stronger. But if you want to look like you train or look like you spend a lot of time, it's 100%, 80, 90%, whatever the percentage is, what you put in your mouth. That's it. Yeah. End of story.
It's crazy. And on top of that, another super confusing category of knowledge where Not only is there a ton of misinformation out there where people are carbs are bad. It's like, really? People look at me and they go, you must never eat carbs. I go, I eat more carbs than anybody you know.
Yeah, and they work for me.
Like
they
literally
work for me.
more than anybody you know. I eat rice like it's cereal. I just you know, it's just about eating the right carbs in the right portion at the right time.
For you.
Yeah, and also for me, my body's more carb forgiving, I guess.
Because you must go. Yeah. We've been
eating pasta in the mountains for thousands of years, so maybe my body's a little more accustomed to it genetically. But regardless, people just don't understand that they can't out-train a bad diet, and that's my favorite quote, and it's so true.
That's a great line. I can't out-train a bad diet.
You can't out-train a bad diet, no matter how hard you train. I mean, genetics are obviously a part of it. If you have, some people have freak genetics that, like, I know you hear about stories of people eating McDonald's while people competing for a show.
But they're not the ones that are asking for the help.
Also correct. They don't have to ever worry about it. Correct. That's true. If you're asking me for help, you're obviously not the kind of person, because otherwise you would need my fucking help. You know, plain and simple. But what do you see? Because you're working with clients such an intimate basis, and you're altering their diets. What do you find to be the biggest misconception in dieting? One, and two,
it's
the hardest thing for people.
simple. Really simple. I mean, off the top of my head, people think, and it makes sense. If I eat less, I'm gonna lose weight.
Yeah,
they starve themselves.
So wrong.
They starve themselves, and if you think about it, if I don't eat, I should lose weight. How can I be gaining weight when I'm not eating more? Think about that without knowing what we know. But fuck, you know, that's what they do. They starve themselves, and at first you will lose weight until you stop losing weight, and now there's nowhere to go. You can't pull any more food out because it's just unhealthy, and your body's already fighting you. And what happens is your body knows that if you're burning off 1,500 calories a day, for argument's sake, and you're only taking in 700 calories a day, there's such a deficit in calories just by what your body needs to survive. Forget about it. Now you're going to exercise. If you ever go on one of these 500 calorie HCG diets, you're not allowed to exercise. Because if you start exercising and that much of a deficit, and you do lose weight on that, because you're eating 500 calories, that has nothing to do with the HCG. Sorry, doctors, I hate your money scam. But the reality is, it's the 500 calories a day you're losing weight from.
You're starving. You're
starving. And if you do anything outside of your normal, like walk, or like just exercise, your body's going to say, I can't do this. Your body goes into shock. It just locks down.
And in a second, you inevitably eat like a normal human being again. It's going to hold on to everything you get because your body doesn't trust you anymore.
Yep.
I always tell people it's a mental and physical battle that's going on within your body. And your body reacts. It's an evolutionary tool, right? It adjusts. And your body's an amazing adaptation tool. So it's going to morph into what you do to it. So like you're saying, if you're eating a calorie deficit that day and your body's naturally burning 1,500 calories a day and you're only taking in 7, your body's going to automatically adjust to do whatever it has to do to only burn 700 calories.
So it survives, yeah. So it stores.
Your metabolism is going down to nothing.
So the first thing I ask somebody is, you know what? How do you feel? You hungry all day? No, I'm not hungry at all. And they think that's good. I'm like, well, that's bad. If you're not hungry, you're not burning. If you're not hungry, you're not burning. And I guess I just had a woman just a few weeks ago. She lost 100 pounds at 56 years old. Denise, kudos to you for the effort you put in.
That's amazing.
Eating 5 times a day. 5 times a day, eating for, there's certain things and a lot of things. I found this too, really interesting. Women don't respond like they used to some of the meats, some of the chickens. I think there's so much hormones in chicks. I had some athletes, studs, that were eating, they were carb cycling. They weren't really losing any weight, eating eggs and chicken and rice and oatmeal and vegetables. And that weren't good bills, not losing anything. All right. Well, let's pull out the carbs, try the keto diet, and that really didn't do that much either. So I just changed the energy source. One was carbs, didn't really do much. One was keto, fat was energy, and that didn't do much. Like, the only thing you can't do any more cardio, which is not feasible, and do a natural, so it had nothing. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Instead of having the animal meat, let's just go to fish and eggs. And the weight lost 4 pounds first week. Now, the first thing I thought was, fuck, they're so fresh, they're starving themselves. They're going to get that food. Next week, 3.5 pounds. I'm like, holy shit. And I did to somebody else, another competitor I know wouldn't lie to me. And all of a sudden, so all my clients, I have them, unless it's really truly organic meat, I think the hormones found in meats right now, chicken and turkey, which used to be a staple of a diet, it's just women don't lose weight on. Wow. Denise, who just lost 100 pounds, she has fish. She has a lot of cilantro, which neutralizes a lot of the metals that are found in fish, which is some of the.
I remember for my prep, you maybe eat cilantro. I hate cilantro.
But it neutralizes the mercury and some of the other things that are found. That's the problem. Man can't fuck with fish, But the metals found in the ocean can alter our body.
Yeah, I was eating so much tuna at one point.
Look at the fucking size of chickens.
Yeah, everything's genetically modified, fed the wrong shit.
Yeah, for money, to make more money faster, right?
Pumped with hormones and cows
are corn fed. So now even like a grass fed cow, that means a lot. A cow that's only grazing on grass, that's what you want.
You don't want a sick, diseased animal to eat every day.
Yeah. So cutting out, so food, getting back to that, and here's something else too.
The big misconception you would say is people think, and I see that all the time too, is eating less is better. When it's like, no. If you want a fire to be burning, you don't put less wood on it.
You want to put gas on the fire.
Yeah. 100%.
And that's what a refeed, the biggest misconception too, is a cheat meal. Cheat meal really is a trick meal or a reboot. You're rebooting your metabolism. Because after a while, when you're dieting, listen, if you're dieting, that means you're in a deficit.
And your body will adjust again.
And your body will adjust to that deficit if you don't either cycle your carbs and increase your energy or have one meal a week where you bring a lot more calories to the table, tricking your body to think it's off this caloric.
Okay, we still stay on the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We still got, and everyone's different. Some people need to cheat or refeed. I hate the word cheat. Refeed every 5 days. Most of the times it's 7. I do notice if you give a refeed meal to someone that's heavy and they're not ready for a refeed meal, it's like throwing a wet log on the fire. You just poured a wet log on the fire and it just starts smoking. That didn't flame, it smoked. Got to be at the point where your body's turning the corner and becoming more metabolically active. If you give refeeds to a client that's not there yet, neither is their metabolism, it goes right back to what they know. There's a thing called set points. If you don't reach a new set point with weight, size, pros or cons, if you gain weight and you don't really hold it for a certain amount of time, second you cheat, your body's going right back to the lighter weight or weight loss. If your body didn't register there's new weight loss yet, that takes usually 3 months to register a new set point. If you don't hold that,
where the body's homeostasis.
Yeah,
basically?
homeostasis. Great word, great analogy. You got there, hold it for a few months and let your body say, okay, this is the new John.
This is us.
This is the new Paul. This is who I am. And then it recalibrates everything at that level.
Interesting.
Otherwise, it goes right back to what it knows and who you were, and you're either going to gain the weight back really quick.
Makes sense.
Like a prep. A prep, you didn't hold that weight off for longer than a week. Next thing you know, that's where you can gain 40 pounds in a week.
A week?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember going to Brownstones the morning after my show and then going home and weighing myself, and I was up 22 pounds
22 in a day.
the first day, and it was 40 by the end of the week.
Yeah. So think about that. But if you held that weight, John, if you held that 198 or 176 for 3 months,
not possible.
Your body might be a little bit different on the rebound because it feels more comfortable this way. Your body wanted to go back to what it was. So set points, knowing that, I think it's really important.
Well, the problem with the rebound is it's funny. So a rebound is the period right after your show and your competition. So basically, at that point, you've been strict with the diet so much so, and you've been so crazy in a calorie deficit and a cardio, that when you, same thing as like we were talking about before with an overweight person who starves himself, when you finally do eat, your body's like, I don't trust you, motherfucker. You've been running miles. You've been giving me no carbs. I'm holding on to this in case you do that to me again. And your body holds everything. And for the first little bit, it's amazing because the weight all goes to the right places. I don't know the physiological reason behind it, but for whatever reason, the week after your show, it's all, you don't look as competition good, like you have that dry, paper thin skin, but you look huge everywhere you want to be. Like your chest, your shoulders, everything explodes. When you work out, your pumps are insane, your veins are blown out. You fill out your shirt, you put on all this. It's like you put on a muscle suit.
Yeah,
and it looks better and better the more you eat, and then the more you eat, and until one day you fall over the cliff, and all of a sudden, and then you smooth out and spill over, and it's a wrap, and you know, okay, this is a wrap for this year.
I remember weighing lettuce in '99. I dieted so hard. It really almost broke me. It really almost broke me. But I was so conditioned. It was pretty nuts, man. I just remember going to Dave. I'm gonna say something I probably shouldn't say. It's probably funny now looking back 20 years ago. I go to Dave's house and I was like, Dave, I don't think I'm gonna make it, man. I'm fucking breaking. He's like, just stay there for a second. You know, Dave with his hands. Dave had, he talks like, so he jabs something in my shoulder, takes an insulin pen and sticks something in my shoulder. I'm like, he's like, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. I'm like, all right, I'll see you later. I got to get home. It's 12 o'clock at night. You're going to go Dave after my work day, and I'm driving home. All of a sudden, I was like, I don't feel too good, man. I don't feel good at all. Matter of fact, oh my God, I'm going to get sick. I roll down the window. I project out behind. I'm like, the fuck was that, dude? What the fuck did you just give me? That wasn't that Nubane shit, was it? That everyone in the 90s was using Nubane. Nubane blocked off pain tolerance, but it was a form of like heroin. It was like Nubane was big in the 90s. Everybody was using that stuff, and it was just...
That what it was?
Yeah. I'm like, Dave, and that's how your body rejects heroin. You throw up. So I threw up on Sudden State at 12 at night.
Did you feel good at least?
I was fucking mad. I called my fuck. I was pissed off. Like, cause everyone saw it, and I'm dead against it. I'm like, what? No, I didn't feel that good. I felt like shit, and I was pissed off. And but I was
home and laid down, though?
I was so fucked up. That it was really hard for me to make that weight, but I made it. But I gained after that show 37 pounds in less than 24 hours. Within 5 days, I was 56 pounds heavier. I remember I walked into my gym that I owned, and I was at the counter, and I walked away as Skeletor. My face peeled, fucking just drained, sunken in. I walked back in Monday like the Michelin Man. 2 days later, and I'm like, they're like, you know what? Just wait till Paul gets here. I'm like, Paul's right here. They turned around, everyone looked at me like, what's the oh my God? And I was standing right there, but 60 pounds heavier, like fucking hilarious. And I remember going to golf with my partner, and he's like, 75, and here I am, I'm Mr. America, and they're like, let's walk. I'm like, no, I'm getting a cart. I'm not fucking walking anywhere. I couldn't even swing without my back getting tight. So that rebound phase, but I couldn't stop. Your ghrelin levels, your ghrelin controls your appetite. I was so hungry.
What's it called?
Your ghrelin. Ghrelin. Yeah, it's a hormone that controls appetite. It was so.
So what is that new thing now that I'm sorry to cut you off? What is that thing now that people are taking? I think it's a peptide for hunger. Is that to increase your ghrelin levels?
If that's what you're trying to increase, I'm not sure what the peptide is. I'm not that, but whatever it is, yeah. When your ghrelin levels are up, my hunger was so ravenous that I went across the street from every single fast food. I couldn't stop. I physically couldn't stop eating. Like worse than any drug, anything you can imagine. I couldn't stop. And even now, I was in so much pain, I couldn't. My body was so swollen. My ex-wife had to take off my shoes and socks because I couldn't bend. I had to shampoo my hair when I had a lot back then. Believe it or not, I had to go 1, 2, 3, and then put my hands down. I cut myself open if I tried shaving because the pump was so intense. It was fucking mad. It's crazy, but I couldn't stop. And as I'm saying that, I'm in so much pain. My doctor's like, dude, you could have a heart attack. Your
blood pressure probably through the roof.
Oh fuck! Everything was straight. I had no joints. It was a cylinder. I couldn't bend my joints, and I remember, and I was still eating. As much pain as I was in, I'm like, what's wrong with you? Stop eating. I can't. Shut up. Just let me fucking eat. And then it went to I couldn't eat. I couldn't eat. My body. It takes 5 days. That's why usually when you're on a diet. And you're cycling your food and stuff, usually it takes your accounting system, your own accounting system, your metabolism brain, 5 days to catch up. That's why when you do a refeed, before it catches up and say, I know what you're doing, you feed it again, and then it goes back to normal. It keeps revved up, and you never had that where it never downgraded. And for me, after like 4 days, I couldn't eat. For 2 days, nothing. I didn't eat anything. My body's like, I went from eating everything I could possibly eat and then some to my body wouldn't allow me to do anything. Nothing. I couldn't put a morsel of food in my body. My body caught up to what was happening. It took 4 days. So sometimes but it took 4 days for my body to register. The fuck you doing?
Chill the fuck out.
And I didn't have an appetite. Yeah. So.
Oh man.
And I couldn't stop. I knew what I was doing, but once you start, that's why I had every intention on doing another show after that too. That this didn't happen. Obviously, I couldn't stop. You just couldn't stop. So it's really important for people when you're coaching people to, when they're done with their show, to, you know what, get back to doing your cardio. That's the first thing. Do your fasted cardio. Have your 1 day where you get to eat a little bit, and the next day, don't give in. Don't feed into where your ghrelin levels get so great where you can't stop. You think you can. Everyone says, I can. I'm good. No, you can't. You never went through a 12-week prep of depriving your body. Now you're starting to give it what it was deprived of. It's going to win. And everyone says, okay. And it's like, and I've never seen anyone beat it unless they took the mindset, I got to get back on my diet.
Or if there's another show in the
or just you don't want to be in that unhealthy position. You got to get back to the diet you're following. Somewhat, you can have a little more leeway and introduce food slowly back in. Have one more carb. Just up your carbs or up your calories. 500 calories is all you can really do. Really, you start upping to thousands of calories. Your body can't handle it.
I remember the morning after that first show, I went to Brownstone Cafe, which I think burned down since, or it might be back.
It's back now, but it did burn down.
Fucking amazing breakfast spot.
Amazing, ridiculous.
I went there with my boy Telby, and he met me the next day. And when I pulled up in the parking lot, he was laughing at how crazy I looked because the morning after, I couldn't really eat the night of the show, which was weird to me. Like after the show was over, immediately I got off stage. I was so dehydrated. I downed a big thing of Gatorade. And then I went home and I felt so bad because my mother had everything waiting for me that she knew I loved. She had amazing cooked food, and you know I'm a cheesecake addict, right? Which that prep actually broke my cheesecake addiction, which is weird. I guess I had eaten it so much that I just grew out of it. She had a whole wheel of cheesecake with like each slice was a different flavor, and it was like amazing. And she came home, everyone was like so excited that I won because they were all at the show and they were so pumped up.
That was cool.
Met me there, all the food laid out for me, and I get there and I couldn't eat a single bite of food.
Wow.
The Gatorade had filled me up, and I was just like, I was nauseous. I couldn't even look at food. And I'm like, all I've been waiting for 14 weeks is to eat, and I can't eat. But the next morning, I woke up and starving. So I went to Brownstone's, my boy Mike, and I remember she came over. The waitress came over, and I ordered my food, and went to walk away when I was on ordering, thinking I was ordering for the table. And I'm like, no, that's all for me. She's like, you're kidding, right? I'm like, no. So I had ordered a thing of French toast, a thing of some kind of crazy pancakes, an order of regular pancakes, eggs, hash browns, a sundae, a coffee with whipped cream on. I had probably a 6,000 calorie meal to myself, and it all went to the right spots. I went to the mall after. I still remember what I was wearing, everything, tight that was in, and everything. I looked
insane.
Yeah, it looked like I was wearing a muscle suit. And then by that time, 2 weeks later, you couldn't even see my abs anymore.
You know what? So when you're talking about nutrition, usually when you talk about a plan, you have a 7-day plan. You follow that plan, and then there's an outcome. Because of that outcome, then you adjust whatever it is, your carbohydrates or your whatever energy source. After that 7 days of execution, there should be an outcome, and that's what you change after that. You want to
make sure it's going the right direction.
Yeah. And if it's not, then what are we doing to get it there? The worst thing you could do is not have accountability, where you let a month go by, and not much happening. Not only on your strength, that's why sometimes it's good to log to see if you're improving on your strength, the scale, your sleep, those factors. I always, how much sleep am I getting? Am I losing strength? If I am, then I'm not eating enough, or I'm not sleeping enough, or something's going on. You change. You have to change the factors that equate to success.
And I think it's important what you showed me to do is like the scientific method what we learned growing up. So there's constants and variables. And when it goes to supplements, when it goes to food, when it goes to training, it's impossible, especially when you're doing so much at the same time, right? You're doing 6 different workouts that week, cardio sessions, you're eating all this food, you're taking whatever you're taking. At the end of the week, if it went good or it went bad, why did it happen, right? If it went good, you're not really worried about it, keep doing it. If it went wrong, why did it go wrong? And if you change everything, it's impossible to know
figure out what happened.
What was the reason it went wrong. And same reason why it's so important to, and I know it's annoying and people think it's psychotic to get to that level, but you have to weigh your foods, portion your foods. You have to know what the macros are in it, because same thing. If you
think you're doing right, but meanwhile you were eating more than you thought, and so you're executing poor.
First half is that, and the second half is if it's off, how do you make an adjustment if you don't know what you've been doing?
Exactly.
I can't tell you what to change your carbs to, up or down, or meals or fats or anything, if I don't know exactly what you've been doing. Yeah. If it's a heapful or a spoonful,
let me give you a good
or you're
analogy.
eyeing it out, the next week, how do you change that?
How about this? You guys are probably too young to remember, but we had maps, literally maps, with like a million lines. If I was going to Florida, we had a map to follow. Now you just put it into your GPS, and it takes you there, shows you how to go there. That's what a food scale is. You want to have a map, which is like, what am I looking at? I really don't know. You got to pay attention line. That's eyeing it. Or a GPS, which tell you exactly how to get there. You'll never miss.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
I like that.
One GPS, true. It's going to get you there 100%. It's going to get you there without fail because it's accurate. The other one is, it's like, where the fuck are we? You make a wrong turn. You don't know how to get. That's what it is. If you're eyeing it, everyone's, I think I'm doing about 4. I'm doing a fist of this. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I was doing 8 ounces. The one I'm supposed to be doing 4. Why your food?
You have to be really experienced. I think that at this point I can eye things out because I've seen that piece of chicken
because you went so many
5,000 times.
Exactly right.
You know what I mean, and I know what 4 ounces of chicken looks like, what 8 ounces of chicken looks like. You can't just do that. And even still, when I'm really serious about it, I'll weigh it out. That's why I actually love the meal company I'm working with now, Flex Pro. The macros come on.
Give me that number. I want to try them.
Yeah, I'm going to send you that for sure because the food's actually good. I mean,
said that.
Yeah, no hate on any of the food companies because
that's cool.
There's other good ones out there in Long Island. I know Empire Nutrition has one that I actually enjoy also. But these ones I like specifically because there's normally when you have a meal plan, not Empire's, but other people's, there's like maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 different meals and you rotate them. But if you're eating 4 or 5 times, I make my own breakfast always. But if I'm eating 4 times a day on top of that, I get sick of the meals real fast. 3 weeks and I've had that fucking, even my favorite dish, I've had it 8 times now, and I just not doing it for me anymore. So this company has like 30 something, 40 different, whatever it is, meals, and they're constantly changing them. So it keeps me like actually not getting bored of the food.
Yeah.
But on top of that, the macros are listed on every single one. They tell you exactly how much fat, how much protein, how many carbs. So if you're doing any kind of scaling in your head, tracking your macros, it just makes it super simple. Not only is it already cooked, it's already portioned and the macros are listed. It just makes your day so much easier. And any client that I take on now, I insist they get on that, because at the end of the day, they're not that expensive either. So it's like you use the code Fresche on there and you get even more discount. And then by the time you go to the supermarket, cook it, although if you have time to cook 4 times a day or prep for the whole week, I mean, supermarket shopping's not cheap either. So it's like, especially if you're getting good stuff, getting organic, whatever, going to Whole Foods, whatever it is, Trader Joe's. So it actually ends up saving money or being comparable, taking the work out of it, take the guesswork out of it, most importantly, and just simplifies your fucking life. So I really enjoy Flex Pro.
That's important. Again, and your success in the mirror. If you want other people to recognize that you put a lot of work in, pay attention to your food. And if you don't know how to eat, hire somebody that does teach you how to eat. And they've worked with different body types. They understand patterns. You'll see patterns when you work with people. You know, you've seen it before. After you know, that type of body type that's not responding to this usually works. You know, not everybody one body is the same for sure, but when you work with enough people, you start seeing that this type of situation I've encountered before.
That's the experience factor.
Yeah, man.
That's
Here's something else, not nutritional though. It was a funny story with our training. When you first hired me, wasn't to compete. You wanted to squat 500 pounds. Okay, so here we are. It's however many months later, whatever the time frame was. John puts 500 pounds on the bar.
No, hold on. No, first you told me not to do it yet. We were doing 400. We were doing 4 plates on each side. Everyone knows 405, 4 plates on each side. We were doing sets with that. I was up to the point where I was able to do 15 reps of that. And I never went higher than that though, ever. Never went higher than that. I don't know what reason was, but
I told you I like the reps with heavy weight, the 15 for size.
And I'm like, I want to do 500. We were at survival again.
Yep.
This is,
you know what I'm going. You know what I'm going.
Yeah, this is post hamstring injury too. And post ACL surgery. So don't ever let a fucking doctor tell you that with hard work and time and rehab the right way, you can't come back. Because the doctor told me I could never squat heavy again. And that was not true. So
true.
I remember putting 350. So it was 465 is 4 plates and a quarter.
Yeah.
I did that. I kind of shorted the rep range on it. I remember Ray calling me out on it when
455.
Yes, right. No, 355. I'm sorry. 365. 365.
Yeah.
I apologize. Put 3 plates and a quarter on each side. I remember doing that rep first, stopping kind of short of full depth just because I guess I was nervous in my head about doing it. No, what am I saying? No, it was 455.
455. Yeah.
455.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm saying 365 was not impressive.
Yeah.
455. I go almost full depth squat, pop back up. It was real easy. And we had it on videotape. Paulie was behind me recording it on tape. I'm like, he's like, that looked good. I'm like, we're going to 500s. We put 5 plates on and a little 2.5 on each side to make it, because 495 without them, make exactly 500.
Right, exactly 500.
We back out. I'm like, get the cameras ready. I'm like, this is it. And I remember hitting a better depth than I did on 455, getting all the way in the bucket. I walk it out. I go down. I come back up. I rack it, and I'm fucking fired up. I come around. I turn around, like pumping my fist, and Paulie looks like he saw a ghost. And I'm like... He's like, Johnny, I'm so sorry. Kelly called me in the middle of that set and the camera cut off. And
you want to do it again?
I was like, fuck you, do it again. Are you crazy?
And you didn't, but you knew you did it, but you didn't. But I'll never forget that all of a sudden as John racked out, took a deep breath and went down, the phone rings, it was Kelly. I'm like, oh my God, I hit stop. It already killed the video.
And we don't have it on record. And I don't feel ever. But
I know you did it. And here's the proof. I don't lie. That was it.
Oh my God,
that was funny.
It was. Kelly, I love you, but I wanted to kill you that day. Oh my God. And but yeah, I mean, I shattered all the things that I wanted to do for myself physically because of this guy. Like I said, everything that I have gotten to this point, I have physically and mentally in a lot of aspects too, was because of this guy. I hope that if you stay tuned for the whole almost 3 hours, that you learned a lot today. You were amused, but also informed, because that's what it's like hanging out with Paulie at all times. It's amusing and informative at all points of time, and that's why I love this guy. I guess I give all credit to him when it comes to everything that comes to me with bodybuilding. And clearly, I could sit here for another 8 hours and talk.
Me too.
We need to do this again multiple times, or even if we make it a monthly thing, we do a fitness content type of deal. I really enjoyed the time. Fucking man. Awesome, man. Appreciate you for everything.
Thank you.
And this was amazing. If you guys follow the video, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell underneath because YouTube's funny sometimes and you won't know the video came out. So stay up to date with everything we're doing here at the Fresh Perspective. Once again, Paulie Ironworks Training. I'm going to put the link to his Instagram underneath so you can follow what he's doing. You can check him out in East Islip if you want to go train in person, train with the master. And yeah, man, we'll be back next week with another episode of the Fresh Perspective.
Cool.
Have a good one, man.
Yeah.